It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
Weird stuff, but yeah, that's a choice. And I just like, nah, I'm good. You know, it's to be expected. We have to go through all this stuff because we have to go through all this stuff. What stuff we got to go through, Frank?
Well, I don't know. I guess we have to go through the coals and get to the other side. And we've all, of course, this audience is well prepared. I think today it's going to be kind of a shorter show, maybe, but in some ways, it's funny. I've been hearing people say it was a slow week, and I don't know how that's possible. I think we saw the complete decimation of MAGA, that MAGA is dead. And whatever the future is going to hold, whether the future of the Republican Party or a integrative us versus them party, which I'm seeing the birth of, I've been seeing this, watching Tucker Carlson and the Young Turks side by side. We're seeing this amalgam occur like in real time. It's fascinating. It's just absolutely fascinating to watch just this complete like morph of American politics. I mean, this is something that's going to last for generations, and we're living through it right now. It's not an accident that we feel every time that we wake up and we check our phone. It's like the next episode of Breaking Bad. What's going to happen next? But I think the highlight of the week, aside from Bitcoin, we'll talk about Bitcoin and the financial markets.
Down to 87,000 now.
And I think we should put Donna on top of just watching the Bitcoin ticker, and like every 10 minutes she checks in with us and tells us what it is. But I'll tell you what, that's in free fall, but it's certainly going back for maybe a whole nother layer down. Then we have, of course, NVIDIA and the AI stocks getting ready to go down. Bitcoin, I've made the argument, tax with NASDAQ. It's more of a NASDAQ stock, if you think about it, with Michael Saylor's CEO. There's more, behind that. I'm being a little facetious, but it is kind of true. So when they all go, they're all going to go, and we're at least drop together, and that's going to be a whole economic issue right around the time of the holidays, which is going to put maybe the death nail in the Trump administration, as he has no political capital left. I have never seen such burning of political capital ever from a president, except, maybe Richard Nixon. I don't know. I was like 2 years old then to see what happened then. I'd like to see some correlations with your thoughts on it. But what Donald Trump just did, I've been hammering every time on the show. I will never let one show of Freedom's Phoenix, I always put in 2 or 3 digs every time. I'm not letting this Epstein thing go. And Tim Pool and others did. But I think the base got it. Democrats already, whether it's political expediency to go after Trump or not, but it's a cheap shot. But it's like the ultimate Aikido move. This whole Epstein thing was ultimately the deep state and mainly focused towards Democrats. And they turned in the general public turned the whole thing around on the Republicans, made this a Trump thing, which maybe it is, because it certainly is now. And as I've said, Trump owns it. That's why I was so angry. It's like he now owns this Epstein issue that was completely unnecessary, especially if he's not really culpable in any of this. If he is, then he's going as well, because when the midterms come, the Democrats will lose. The Republicans will lose. I'm actually joining Ernie. I'm probably not even going to vote, or I'm just going to maybe I'll vote Libertarian. I don't care.
I don't care.
I am not. I know. I'll make Ernie happy for once. So I'm not, so the Democrats will win. Republicans will get blown out in these midterms, and that's automatic impeachment for whatever. Before they were trying to get Trump on jaywalking. Now it's going to be straight up, they're going to find stuff to get him on. It's going to be a food fight with Democrats, Republicans, all blaming the other side for Epstein. Oh, yeah, well, it's kind of like picking teams on Junior League, like the Democrats blame Trump. And then the Republicans will blame, say, Clinton was on the plane, and then all of a sudden the Republicans will call out Jeffries, which supposedly he's on the list, and then the Democrats are going to pull. This whole thing is it's a death by 1,000 cuts. And Trump and Kash Patel, who's just a complete joke, all of them they have blown all of their capital and the trust into this entire movement. And then they wonder why Nick Fuentes, who I've been bringing up for a bit, not that I have to bring him up because the movement is there now, why he's ascending and why there's this fracture. And then there's the whole fracture over Turning Point USA, which that's another conversation for later, where Tim Pool now has not been invited to Turning Point. There's all this civil war about who goes to Turning Point, who doesn't, and who's got the reins of that. The whole thing's split. This is, I know, and the word of the day, Pee Wee Herman's Playhouse, Israel and anti-Semitism and who controls it. But Trump having to sign that bill. Remember, whenever he signs a bill, Trump usually is, he's in the Oval Office, and there's people standing behind him. Did you ever notice whenever he signs a bill, he's got the big signature, and he's got people behind him, and there's cameras. And this time, I was at work late. It was like 11 o'clock at night or something. Yeah, but I got breaking news. And what?
New Beatle album is coming out tomorrow.
Seriously?
Yep.
Wow.
A bunch of demos and a bunch of other guys. So that I find more interesting and more important. That I don't give a crap about, all this internal Trump. They kind of do not start. It's a distraction from what? There's some heavy stuff coming. Most notably a new Beatle album. But, there's a lot of stuff coming economically. It's amazing how they're keeping this out of the news. You're muted. Frank, you're muted. I think he needs.
Sorry, I was dealing with my thing. But yeah, I missed what you said. But you're talking the Beatles. I had to deal with my finger, and he knows about. So, but yeah, no.
He has a repair guy coming is working on his refrigerator, and
tell the
he's
world
got a
that's okay.
parrot that's noisy, so he's juggling.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all cool. But anyway, that's what the setup I just wanted to bring up to at least view the audience where I see. I mean, there's so many other things we could talk about that are going on in the economy and this and that. But and even pop culture, the death of the movie theaters. I think they're going to be closing soon. That's a whole other deal, which represents a change and transition in how we consume media and culture, and a dissolution into our uniculture of our little bubbles, which I've talked about for years. But anyway, this thing with Trump is I think so profound. Because when he signed that bill, there was no cameras. What I was saying is it was like 11 o'clock Arizona time when at least I got the notice that came up. It says Trump just signed the bill. Like there's no ceremony, no nothing. It was just fine, like F it. Here's my fine. And I wish I was there in the room just to watch him and see what his face looked like when he signed it. And and you just wonder. And I'm going to throw the ball back to you in a second here. But the other thing I want to add in briefly, and we'll talk about it later. I also watched, and this is a fun little talk about spinoff here. Trump the movie that Ernie has been talking about for years. I finally went and watched just the other night with my better half the movie The Apprentice. Did you see The Apprentice yet? Did you watch that?
Movie?
It came out just like yeah. It's called The Apprentice. It came out.
When?
I talked about it with you on the show. It came out like literally 4 months before the election, and nobody went to see it. It stars Sebastian Stan, the guy who plays what do you call it, the Russian Captain America, Bucky from the Captain America movies. Yeah. That's Sebastian Stan. Anyway, he plays Donald Trump, and he's got a nice little comb over and all that. And it's basically called The Apprentice, which is obviously a play off of his TV show. But what this movie is essentially, and I'm not making this up, it's really an origin story like for a superhero or a supervillain, depends how you look at Trump. It's like the movie The Joker. Remember Joker? where all of a sudden it's like you see how the Joker becomes the Joker, and he's like this little meek guy, and he goes through all this machinations, the Robert De Niro he runs into, and all of this, and then at the end he just becomes the Joker. That's this movie. It's really it's a great movie. Who made it? I don't know. I mean, it's just it was. I mean, it's a legit movie. It's legit. It's filmed
is
very
it balanced? Is it biased one way or the other? What?
Well, it's not. That's what I'm saying. It's not that bad. Even a bunch of like right leaning podcasters, the people like Critical Drinker, people like them, they didn't have a problem with it. They're like, there was like one scene in the movie that a lot of people didn't like. I won't go into it. It was kind of something you go like, really? But aside from that, it's really not a bad movie. What it is, it's like, again, it's an origin of Trump as he comes as a kind of getting put down by his dad, who was already like a real estate guy, but he was like in the minor leagues, and his brother, who's an alcoholic, and you're seeing him through this process, how he really wants to get out of his father's shadow. And then he runs into, and this is really what the movie is fascinating to watch. You have to watch it, Ernie. He runs into the infamous Roy Cohn. Remember Roy Cohn? The amazing
attorney or something.
Oh, not just an attorney. I remember him back in the 80s. He's Jewish and he's gay, and he's like full on Republican. In fact, he's the one that discovers Roger Stone. And in the movie, they're saying Roger Stone is gay. That's what they're insinuating in the show and in this movie. But Roy Cohn, it's kind of like sometimes when you hear, and I no like good, bad, or different on it, but the stereotype is that gay people tend to be Democrat liberal. But then you have some people like supposedly Lindsey Graham and such that are, whether in the closet or not, but they're just they're diehard Republican, conservative, stick to American values. It's almost like whether it's overcompensation or that's their views, whatever it is, it's just bam. Well, this is Roy Cohn, and he's got these dead eyes. I'm not saying he has antisocial disorder, but certainly looks it. And I remember those interviews. Watch Roy Cohn interviews, including a famous one from 60 Minutes back in the 80s that's been reposted on YouTube. You can watch. But Roy Cohn, I always found a fascinating guy. He was like the attorney for the mafia. When you wanted to, when the feds are after you completely, you got Roy Cohn. If you wanted to tax someone, Roy Cohn. If you were a rich person and a rich woman who was going through a divorce and you wanted to stick it to your ex-husband, you hired Roy Cohn. And he never lost. Well, he of course he was part of the whole Studio 52 or whatever the heck it was, and he was in that whole New York scene from the 70s and 80s. Well, one of the people he famously became BFFs with was a young Donald Trump. And that's why it's called The Apprentice. Donald Trump is the apprentice, like Anakin to Sidious. And in this case, Trump, a young Trump, is the apprentice to Roy Cohn. And you're seeing how he's learning all the rules from Roy Cohn. The rules of never say you're sorry, always fight back, always, he's got these rules. And when you watch, and Roy Cohn talks about it in the 60 Minutes interview. He's like, this is all real stuff. And Trump's hanging, heck, even in the documentary, in the 60 Minutes, there's a clip from Studio 54 or whatever, and you see Donald Trump just walk right by in the frame. He's right there from the old footage. So those two were always hanging out, and you can see that I always say it wrong, pugilist, I always say it wrong, but the fighter mentality, that New York pugilist, thank you, the pugilist New York mentality, they wound up, you saw New York in the 70s and 80s and battling, Mayor Koch. When you went after these people, they set a new stage, and that's where Roger Stone comes from. That's where, of course, Roy Cohn is like the mastermind of it. And then Donald Trump is basically just taking that model and then supersized it and became president. Like everything you see Roy Cohn do is what Donald Trump does. It's just, anyway, good, bad, or indifferent, but it's a tactic.
Yeah, but I mean, why is that such a thing? Why? Why do I care? Oh, he's like Cohn.
Well, I care. Well, because, especially after watching what you just saw these last few weeks, that Donald Trump will sit there and burn the entire thing down rather than say I was wrong or to be pushed into a situation. You saw what he did with China. He's like, I'm going to throw his tariffs.
All right,
I'm going to be the tough guy. And then when China doesn't do it, he goes, well, and he has to find a way to try to stay facing back down.
I got the trailer up for it, so it's a minute and 32 seconds.
Go ahead.
Let's just watch that and see what the hell Frank is talking about. All right, here we go.
Yes.
Hello, this is Donald Trump from Mr. Cohn. Thank you so much.
Donald who?
Roy Cohn, nice to meet you.
You Roy Cohn from all the papers? Yeah, you're brutal.
Guilty as charged. Roy Cohn is a crook. He's been indicted 3 times. I'm gonna let you in a little secret. People, they hire me because I'm a winner.
How do you win?
The first rule is the simplest. Attack, attack, attack.
It's going to be the finest building in the country. In the world. It's going to be spectacular.
Rule 2, admit nothing, deny everything.
You think you can beat the U.S. government?
Rule 3, no matter what happens, you claim victory and never admit defeat. I record everything in case I need it.
Well, that's illegal.
You have to be willing to do anything to anyone to win.
There are 2 types of people. There are winners and there are losers.
You're over-leveraged and have debt up to your ears.
I know what I'm doing.
Kevin, look at yourself. You're getting ugly.
Don't you forget, I made you.
We have a brand new campaign slogan. Let's make America great again.
Well, I like the again part.
That's Roger Stone, by the way. That's the Roger Stone character.
Really?
Yeah.
Am I gonna? Yeah, I'll watch it. Am I going to learn anything? Is it just?
No, I think you will. I think you will, and especially for those of you that remember Roy Cohn, like he was always an enigmatic figure. Whenever I saw like once in a while, he didn't do a lot of interviews, but when he did, there was something really both appealing and slimy at the same time. What's with this guy? And I had no idea that he was so keyed in with Trump. And then you see the same patterns, and then you see how he's been handling the administration. Now it's how he
so
rose.
Much winning. You're going to say stop or tired of winning. On one hand, all those tactics from the pugilist New York City got out, and he took it nationwide. It's almost like when Howard Stern was, he was just they thought just a culture from New York. They said that Howard Stern would never get past New York because other cities don't listen to New York kind of humor. And then he went to Philly, and then Florida, and Washington, and next thing he was nationwide. And he took New York and brought it outside. And Trump took that mentality, which is why I knew Trump was going to win back when I got my dollar, by the way, for the audience, was because I understood how he thought and I understood that mindset. And then he was going to apply that to nationwide politics that just wasn't ready for that world. And that's why I was just sitting back with the popcorn on the Trump report when we got started going, this is going to be fun because I know how this guy, those types of people operate. And now, though, that what I'm getting to with all of this is that same mentality can make you and it can break you. And in this case, it's like you can rise all the way up, kind of like the Nvidia stock. But if you get too much into it or hubris takes over, you don't know when to check yourself because it's always worked before. Attack, attack, attack. Well, then the whole thing then can turn on you in a dime, and you're that's
what?
One thing that I'm seeing. He's thinking that attack, attack, attack is a strategy that never fails while he's attacking people that were supportive in and out of round whatever MAGA, and because he wants what he wants, and Cohn probably was a big Israel supporter, so he's a supporter, and he's wanting whatever he can get from Netanyahu and the Jewish community to whatever. But I'm like, this is... Man, that's a wrong hill to die on.
Yeah, but just a quick comment before I throw it back to you on this is that hey, there's a lot pent up here, but it's like MTG. We didn't get to that. I mean, not only did he take down Massey, who's probably the most, or tried to, he didn't take him down. Massey now is looking like the new presidential candidate for 2028. Right. Are you kidding me? People are talking Massey MTG as a ticket. I mean, what the heck? And so all of a sudden you've got Massey then that took on the entire GOP establishment, a bunch of cowards who refused to vote on this, except for the female representatives, which is definitely a good reason to have lady representatives. You know, it's like it was the lady ones that tended, like Bobart, and they tried to coerce Bobart to change her view, and Nancy Mace, and both of them have been abused. They're like, no, hell no, we're not. And that's when Trump knew he was screwed. But he went after MTG, which of course is bad enough to go after Massey, but to go after her, I mean, you know, and she was just off The View, kind of showing her balance. I mean, MTG's definitely she's
Trump
looking
to
ahead.
go after her on that was a mistake. I got it up here. It says Massey Green 28 buzz gained steam after fallout with Donald Trump. What's next? Now, who would push this? The left, or would this be supporters from the right? And I don't care, you know. But Massey Green in the same sentence. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene up there as presidential candidate, VP, whatever, would squash all this female glass ceiling bullshit. It is philosophy. It is what would she do? How does she act? What are her ideas? How forceful will she implement them? How will she crack? Is she, you know, the puppet of anybody? For her to be up saying the stuff that she does on a national level for the presidency, VP, supporting anybody, doing it, she had a great impact for Trump. And him going after her and Massey, that are principled people like this, and even through all of him slamming on MTG, I love Trump. I love Trump. No matter, I love Trump. And him to do this, there's something else going on, and it's dark.
Right. No, exactly. This is the larger issue. This is the point. I don't believe Trump is, you know, in there completely. Heck, I mean, it wasn't Trump in a blue dress that was over the foyer on Epstein's Island. It was Bill Clinton, for God's sake. And it was the Democrats that seemed to be tied to this more for a whole bunch of reasons. And, you know, this is the Republican state. I mean, it's like the whole thing was given as a gift to the Republicans. We're looking at Vance just cakewalking in to be president next time. And not that whether you and I would agree with that one, but, you know, like the whole thing, you're looking at a coalition of libertarians, independents, disavowed, disenchanted Democrats, Republicans. I mean, he created this coalition we have not seen ever in my lifetime, except maybe the Reagan coalition. And all of a sudden, within less than a year, it just goes up in smoke and he destroys it. And not to mention other things like the H-1 visa deal and all these other odds and ends. And of course, the bombing in Iran. I mean, we can keep going on and on. The whole placating, taking two knees, Donald, two knees to Benjamin Netanyahu, and that whole lobbying. I mean, it's all is that bad enough, but the Epstein was the cherry on top, or the big cherry, because the whole MAGA thing was really about, and I've said this on your show. You know, it was an anti-corruption movement at its core. That's what it was, right? That's why some people couldn't understand. Is Frank for Trump, or is he voting for him or not? I'm all confused. No, I was for, you know, Ben Carson, for God's sake, or whatever. It was the fact I didn't care at that point. The system I knew was corrupt enough that I needed enough Americans to see it, and that's in order to get change. That's at least how I went about it. Ernie and a lot of us, we do activism in our own ways, but that's, to me, that's what needed to happen. Enough people had to stop, you know, in the matrix. They had to start waking up and realizing there's something else going on. Now, my God, this is crazy. I feel like, you know, when most Americans like see what I see now, I'm not used to that. You know, when people are, Alex Jones is becoming normalized. Like, I'm not used to this. When Megyn Kelly is talking like Alex Jones, you know what I mean? It's like I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone. But that's what needed to happen. And Trump, to me, is just a vehicle to get there. I think he's the battering ram that I always knew he was, that battering ram just to knock this thing down, expose the media, sit there and tell them to screw off. And when they attack them, the more they attack them, the more they show to what depths they'll do to show how the voting system works, all these things. I didn't care that Trump was not Ron Paul. I know you cared, and you and I went back and forth on, well, the philosophy. I didn't care at that point because it didn't matter. It didn't matter. It needed to be busted open. Then it's going to be, it's going to be a little kooky for a while. But eventually, then a new coalition or a new mindset will come of age. And I was telling Ernie off the air, it's happening right now, and that's where Nick Fuentes, as an example, is. Ernie and I had a fun exchange last week when, and I won't keep giving you too much of our time. And Ernie asked such an innocent boomer type question. I don't understand why young men like Nick Fuentes. And I went, and that is the issue. The issue is that we're all busy fighting like a divorcing couple, and they don't realize that the
Trump
children
Jr.
in the
minus
room,
Israel.
the children in the back room are hearing the entire fight, and they're being ignored as the adults are yelling together, right? And that's what's happened. These young men, and I won't do the rant again, but a summary is just, they're ignored, they're bankrupt, they're told they're evil and they're toxic and they're white and they're being handed the debt. They're handed, it's like this giant party occurs, and all the older adults are busy partying it up with champagne and everything else. And then all of a sudden they all leave, or they're hungover, or they die from vomiting or whatever. And then you're the young person, and they go, "Oh, you're the one standing here," and the maitre d' comes and gives you the bill. That's how this young generation feels on top of going through adolescence and trying to figure themselves out in the social media world where people don't even know what a woman is, and the best looking thing in their future is put it on VR goggles and put on Mia Sophia, and all that. That's all they have. So they're so angry, and then we're spending money to Israel or other countries, and people worry about their Medicare and their Social Security, and these young people can't even buy a house or even start a family, not to much even find a woman in today's world. So they are just pent-up rage, which is a problem, because when you have a population that gets pent-up rage, then they start to blame things, whether it's proper or improper. And we've seen this before in history. And that's where Nick Fuentes is walking that line of what's proper anger and justified, in my opinion, but also, and I'm not accusing him of this necessarily, but he's walking that line of where this anger can go, and we've seen it in history. So that's Nick Fuentes. Well, what Tucker did was, and Ernie didn't. Usually he watches Tucker's show before. He's doing his work with his farm there, and he didn't get to watch it. But many of you already did. Tucker dropped a new episode last night, and the title was exactly the rant I had yesterday with Ernie is
why shows to do, man. Give me time. Crap.
Why, you slacker? Well, why are young men engaged or interested with Nick Fuentes? Like that was the title of the Tucker. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a banger. This is exactly what I was yelling at Ernie about just last week. Is that there's just a disconnect, and Tucker wanted to explain to his demographic, his generation, or the older viewers about what's happening here. And so he went on a whole hour monologue, basically saying what I just ranted last week about, in the last few weeks or months or years, ultimately, about the young generation. It's like people are not paying attention to them. And so Tucker his brother is young, right? He's got a younger brother. He's kind of tapped into the younger market a bit. He speaks at Turning Point USA. So he certainly is that like middle ground between the older world of Fox, but the younger people. That's why he's so dangerous to the establishment. So that's Tucker. And so he then gets a guest, because he does an hour monologue, and then he always has a surprise guest. You never know who it's going to be. And all of a sudden, up pops the son of Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley, this neocon, is not a country I don't want to bomb. Nikki Haley, her son, it turned out, it was going around, I was hearing about this last week or so, that her son listens to Nick Fuentes, and that he completely is against his mom's policies. And he's got a Twitter channel, and he's been talking about it, but respectfully. He's not some crazy, angry, young kid, but he's, it somehow got out into the news about the contrast that her younger son opposes everything that Haley does. So Tucker's like, oh, that's interesting. I'm going to have him on the show because, he would be a good representation of why are young people turning, even when your own mother is a presidential candidate with a different viewpoint. And Tucker, 2 times in the show, and I want to be clear too, he's very clear. He says it in front of, I forget his name actually, but he says, look, there's nothing worse than trying to use someone's child against them politically. So he's very clear. He says, this is not why you're on here. And Nikki Haley's name, I don't think even comes up one time in there. And Nick Fuentes' name does not come up, I don't think, one time in the interview. It really is a truly wonderful, kind of a beautiful discussion of Tucker being almost like an uncle, talking to him about how he got to where he is and how do young people see the world themselves and what their outlooks are and their fears and what's happening. And anyway, you all need to listen to it. It's kind of a deeper dive into what I keep bringing up. That is the hidden market, whether it's for commercial market or the political market, of where this country is going. We're still stuck in this 1980s, 70s, post-colonialism or colonialism view of America with the homogeny of, got to be the world's policeman and Israel and all of this. And it's being driven by the older generation that won't retire, and they still have their tentacles everywhere, and they're dying off just you're getting strokes on air like the turtle, and they won't leave. And the younger generation is stunted. And I'll throw it to you here. But you know what that generation reminds me of? That generation reminds me, Ernie, of Forrest Gump. And what I mean by that is, remember Forrest, I always love this analogy, is Forrest Gump in the beginning of the movie, right? He's got his broken legs or something wrong with his legs. And so he's got the braces on. And the braces are holding him back. But he's getting stronger muscles because he's got the braces on. And he's been held back. And he's ignored. And then finally, when the braces come off, he's bam, right? And he just takes off and you can't restrain him. That is like a pressure cooker of what that generation is. I highly recommend that Tucker show. But it's all of this is coming down on Trump, and he's just fractured the base, and he's done. He's already a lame duck before even the midterms. He's probably going to be impeached. He's going to lose all of his power and support. It's such a shame, ultimately, of what he's given up. So he's done. MAGA's done, in my opinion. I'm calling it today like a doctor. I'm calling it. So it's done. Now, where it goes from here is going to be fascinating. That's where that Tucker Carlson interview comes into play, because that generation now is finally saying, we now are hitting with the bill, and you guys are old. I mean, he didn't say it this way. This is Tamburri's version. But it's like, their generation is now about to take over. And then, of course, you're seeing the unification of the anti-establishment Republicans, the anti-establishment Democrats. They both are so angry that they've thrown it all off to the wind, and they're finding a different unification. Nick Fuentes.
Well, it looks like all these.
Nick Fuentes the other day, and I'm curious what you think, Ernie. He said, and he got a lot of flack from this. He's been called a Nazi for this too. But he said, this is maybe. He goes, I'm making a proposal. This is what he said. He said, look, there's no perfect answer out of this, but what this is turning into, sounds like Ernie here, it's basically the people versus they, them, those, right? That's essentially what he's saying. And so we have to come to the conclusion that it doesn't matter who we put in power. They split us apart to fight over abortion or flag waving or burning or whatever. And then whenever they get in, they're all doing the same thing, right? Like this audience we know, we call it the uniparty. So now more people, the majority of people and the young people are seeing it. Hence why I loved Trump and why he was needed. But anyway, so he's saying, look, the establishment Democrats, establishment Republicans, or the pro-Zionist people, or whatever, they've always held together secretly as the wall against the people, as we're fighting each other. Now that we can all see it, we realize that they're too entrenched. You can't take them down. But by us being split. So that means that the anti-establishment wings of both parties, maybe what you would call the AOC wing and the MAGA wing, the Griper wing, whatever, they're all younger, but they both have something in common. They're both being given the bill for all of this. They both see a lot of problems with Israel or our foreign policy overall in the world, Ukraine, everywhere. It's not just Israel, although that's kind of flashpoint. But how can the left and the right, the AOC wing and the new MAGA, America First wing, come together. And what he proposed, and Ernie, trust, I know this audience is, you can balk at it all you want, but remember, it's not going to be our problem
This
soon.
is Frank turning it over to me real quick.
You're right. Okay, you got me on that one. But this is what he said. His proposal is that the left gives in to the right and says, all right, no more identity politics. We shut down the border. It's like, we kick out the illegals. We do all of that. That's the part, the America First. You keep it for Americans to strengthen American culture. It's not my words this time. So you need something unified to make America together. And no, it doesn't mean everyone's got to be white. All right, that's not the issue. It's just you need a unified culture, and that's the hard fork, the hard part. The liberals are going to have to give up. But on the other hand, then the conservative, the new America First people have to give up to the right the social programs and say, all right, fine, we have to make social programs that everyone's taken care of, so we find a more equitable health care plan, and whether it's a standard income or universal basic income, whatever, something of those lines, that we have to give up that, which of course the libertarian free market people are not going to like, but that would be the cost, that each side gives up a solid big foundation that maybe we could live together, because even though we may disagree on having these social programs, what might compensate is that at least Americans aren't fighting each other and everyone's on the same team culturally. So anyway, I'm not saying whether I agree or not, but that's what he floated out, and he was hit back by. That's what the Nazis were about. It was about shutting down the borders, keeping your culture to yourself, and then socializing everything and having the government run everything, which is a fair point from history. Forgetting even getting mad at Israel. So anyway, I threw a lot in there, Ernie. Ernie did really good. Hope you got some chores done with all of that. But thank you. And so what do you think about the larger picture and some of those details?
I think I got a dozen flies already. Boom! I put up why is Nick Fuentes so popular? Nikki Haley's son explains, and he's in the middle of it here, just rambling. I'm going to turn on the sound, and we're going to listen for 30 seconds and see what's up. Here we go.
And I still don't see it. I live in Fort Mill, South Carolina. It's just south of Charlotte. And I got so angry because about a month or two ago, I was like, let me look at housing prices. Let me see what they are. And I saw how expensive they were. And then I looked and saw how much they were just a few years ago.
Yeah.
And it's doubled, almost tripled the cost. And that's everywhere in South Carolina, not just there. And it's beyond frustrating that people of the past generations are not doing what parents should do, which is have your kids have a greater life than you did. That's the goal. So it's hopelessness, really.
How much debt does your friends have? I won't ask you about yourself, but I mean, do people have student loans, credit cards? Is that part of it?
I mean, everyone's probably scared to talk about it, so I wouldn't know. But I would imagine, just from school alone, tens of thousands, maybe some even six figures.
We live in a country where people are totally happy to tell you about their sex lives, whatever weird thought they've had. They're just, it's an exhibitionist culture, but not on the question of debt and money. Why is that? You say people are embarrassed to say they're in hock to Citibank for their credit card. Why is that embarrassing?
But you know what? Now it's actually, I've noticed it is actually becoming a little less where people are more vocal about it because it's just so normal. Everyone has it. And no one really sees a way out. So it's like, what's there to hide? So I think that's becoming less taboo to talk about.
I hope so.
And
so what you're saying is it's economics. It's going to be a food thing. When it comes down to where you're buy now, pay later kind of stuff on your widget app of whatever the hell to get DoorDash because you're hungry, this is how it starts. This is what I've been talking about. It's going to be a food thing. We have a plan. We just it's been kind of mulling over for a while, and all of a sudden it clicked with I was interviewing James Corbett last night, and we got a new activist thing I'll be sharing with you. And I'm seeing it's time. It's prime time for this particular thing. Ernie's such an opportunist, you know. Oh, you get lucky about every 5 years. Yep. Because I'm waiting for the right circumstances. They're here, and this is a good example of it. You have who are the real motivators? Who are the ones that actually take on the role for protection, for the future of their own lives, of their family, of a family they want to start? It's going to be the young men. It always has been. And they're trying to, if we're waiting on the women to do it, then we're still waiting. And you're going to, that's one thing Donna and I always go on. She goes, yeah, I'll do that later. Yeah, we'll do that later. Later means never. I just want everybody to know that. Later means no. There's no later, because I know what later means. Later means not. So this is, I could see it's time, and we are just now finally pretty much out of debt. That's been a thing, for doing a lot of stuff, and we just keep hitting at it, and we're done. So that just really happened this morning. The only bill that we have is the tractor, because we got 0% on that, so there's no real advantage to just pay it all off. But other than that, we're done. And that means that we get, more resources to put towards whatever. And you got to do a little freedom thing as appreciation for God being nice. We're going to do a little bit more freedom stuff, but it needs to be something simple, something not expensive, something effective, something any and everybody can do. It's kind of like, a lot of people will go, look, you could either, like Musk is a big deal on this. You could do one big giant thing for you, or, something that impacts everybody a little bit, and it be a big giant thing for the planet. And that's more of where I come from. It's if you could have an understanding of an entire generation of freedom. They got exposed the spontaneous order of the Ron Paul evolution. Well, that was the culmination of a bunch of efforts for a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades before that, by him and an entire community, by the libertarian philosophy, by, the objectivists, Ayn Rand, the party, politics, philosophy, Lysander Spooner, John Locke, the founding fathers, the founding couples. They always, leave out the women. But this is so timely right now, and articulating this. I'm glad that, I really wanted to emphasize why. Why Nick Fuentes? Why? And for someone as average, or, just, had an opinion and not afraid to say it, he put on a suit and tie, so, they couldn't bitch about that, I guess. Something. But I look at other people that I think are far more effective, like David Smith. Well, he's very popular, but he's very libertarian. This America First, AF, the America First thing, it was a direct attack on MAGA. And it was a direct attack on our emphasis on Israel. It was a direct attack on, Trump. It was a direct attack. And when they started doing this Epstein, what? Come on. That's so last news. This is the result of that, and I don't think they saw it. Trump, your apprentice thing, what he learned from Cohn, he's like, never admit defeat, never say you're sorry, never, and always winning, right up until nobody believes it anymore.
Exactly.
And he's running up against that.
Yep.
So this is very interesting, but it's not a surprise. It's to be expected. And I think a lot of people that are team Trump, team MAGA, team Make America Great Again, team, they always create a movement that then the bad guys run and jump in front of. And I'm seeing Israel do it, Netanyahu, even Trump, a lot of these guys, Lindsey Graham, I'm all MAGA now. I'm like, oh my God. When these guys start, saying, McConnell and all, they're all Trump now, and we're done.
I have to say, I knew it was over from before it began. Just one moment, and that's when he put Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. That, to me, honestly, was like, this does not bode well. That was the end.
Because he was definitely an Israel plant. That was, been neon obvious since forever. And put him as, Secretary of State on foreign policy, Israel first guy. That was just neon. I don't know what the trade-off for that was. And I think the Israel link probably goes back to the Cohn thing. During that movie, The Apprentice, did Israel come up much, or Jewish community? What?
That was really fascinating. It didn't. The part that I do want to answer the question. The part I just want to prepare you for that I didn't expect, and I kind of wonder if this does play into the Epstein stuff. Is that movie was almost 50% homoerotic. Like, they did everything to explicitly show Donald Trump getting on his knees in front of Roy Cohn. And I'm not trying to, bloviate it about it. Like, Roy Cohn, I mean, he had all these, he never got married, of course, everyone knew that. He had all these, like, really homosexual guys, like, just out of the closet as his assistants, taking notes. They lived with him. Like, this is back in the 70s and 80s where this kind of stuff was pretty quiet. People, even on 60 Minutes, they say, so how come you never got married? Now, Roy Cohn's only claim to fame that his what they call a beard, if you know what a beard is, that's what gay men, they use something to try to fool people that they're really straight. So, like, a lot of guys would say that their beard when they were in high school or college is they put like a Farrah Fawcett poster up in their room so everyone thought that they were straight. That's what they call a beard. And so some people, so that's
Frank knows way too much about this stuff.
So anyway, but so Roy Cohn's beard was, you're not going to believe this one, Barbara Walters, who obviously a very, a Jewish journalist. And those two, they dated. There was, it's confirmed. I mean, there's pictures of them together, and Barbara Walters has acknowledged it, and supposedly they were going to get married and he backed out, or maybe it was never that serious. I don't know. But he always says, well, I was going to marry Barbara Walters, but I didn't want to get tied up or whatever. So, but he definitely, so when the beginning of the movie, they insinuate that, when Donald Trump went to Roy Cohn's club, his nightclub, because he was like the kingpin, in this club, and he was like begging, he was trying to find someone to help him out, his father, out of legal troubles, and you can just see Roy Cohn just like stare at him like, hey, this is another cute guy, because Donald Trump, he was young, tall, blonde hair. And so he was surrounded by guys like that. And so the question is why, and I'm not insinuating anything, but, it's an interesting question. Why would Roy Cohn take Donald Trump under his wing, which he did? He was really close. I mean, Trump was with him a lot and helped him out and all sorts of stuff, including building Trump Tower. And it's fascinating. I won't go into it here, but how he built Trump Tower, which became his legacy, his landmark. Because the point of Trump Tower was it was built in an area that people said you could never build a five-star hotel. It was in a rundown, complete drugs, it was, graffiti, and nobody wanted to build there. And Trump was able to get the funding and get the mayor not to bill him for the taxes, because Trump couldn't get the funding from all the other banker people, because they said it would cost too much and there's too much risk because, for the crime, and no one's going to go there. So Trump's only gamble was that they said, if you could get the mayor to not charge us the taxes to build it, then we'll do it, but that'll never happen. So Trump realized everything was on the line to get the mayor the legislature not to tax them. And so, so he used all Roy Cohn's tactics along with Roy Cohn, and that's like the big setup piece of where this comes into. But the thing is where did he get all this attention from Roy Cohn? The movie goes out of its way to kind of show that Trump was, definitely a straight guy in this world. Did something happen or not? They never explicitly show it. There's in film language.
It's in the Epstein files.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in film language, if you see, when they give a hug or things like that, they're implying, if you read between the lines, but they don't actually do it. Otherwise, Trump would have sued the hell out of this production for the movie. So they never quite show that. But it's insinuated. And I don't know if it's true or not, but just be aware there's a lot of gay overtones in this movie, thinking that that's
Trump
what ran
likes WWE and pugilism and boxing and manly men out there being, men. So, wouldn't surprise. I don't care. I mean, that's way down on my give a crap.
Well, watch the movie. We'll have something to talk about. And then when you're done the movie, either before or after, and I'm telling the audience as well, definitely watch on YouTube the 60 Minutes interview with Roy Cohn. I mean, you can tell that they modeled a lot of the movie off that interview. Showing him doing sit-ups. He always did like 100, 200 sit-ups in his fancy bedroom every day, and his assistant was there helping him, and they even have that shot in the movie. So they're trying to make it as realistic, at least that we know, including that Roy Cohn dead stare. Man, if that's not a giveaway. But yeah, check it out.
When was this movie made?
I told you it was made. It was made like a year and a half, 2 years ago is when it was probably done. But they released it 3-4 months before the election. I talked about it on the show. I just didn't watch it because there's so much going on, and it was coming from the left. And I just assumed. Look, but let me just get this out of the way. I just assumed, like you did, Ernie, that it was just going to be a crazy, left wing, Trump's the Antichrist piece, and it really wasn't. And the reason, and I trusted people like Critical Drinker and others, they were saying, look, the movie's got its faults, and there's this one scene that it's a bit unfair, but overall, it's kind of like a kind of a gritty, old school documentary, like the story of Ray Charles, how he became Ray Charles, kind of thing. And the set pieces are great. Like, dude, the acting is fantastic. In fact, the guy who this is like Siskel and Ebert, you and I are turning into today. But the guy who plays Roy Cohn, I'm telling you, audience, it was one of the performances of the year. That guy, the actor who played him, was riveting. I mean, I'd give him an Oscar like immediately, halfway through the movie. I'm telling Savarda, this guy deserves an Oscar, and I think he may have been nominated. But it's just a captivating performance. But
who is the guy you're saying he was the Winter Soldier guy?
Sebastian Stan. Just put him in. But Sebastian Stan, Marvel Avengers. You'll see him. You'll know him.
Well, is it Winter Soldier or not?
Yeah, it's Winter. Well, a bunch of them. Winter Soldier, the new Captain America. They're trying to they put him in the new Avengers movie. They're trying to make him a thing, but no one watches the movies anymore. Anyway, he played Bucky from the very first Captain America movie.
Yeah.
Oh,
I get it.
Well, anyway, so he does an okay Donald Trump. I mean, and also it's also fair. He doesn't play the Trump stereotype. He's not doing what's his name from Saturday Night Live. The guy shot, what's his name, Alec Baldwin. He's not doing an over the top Trump impersonator. He's actually trying to play Trump as a human being going through this journey. So, to be fair, I give it credit. They weren't doing cheap shots, although, it certainly wasn't a pro-Trump.
Hold on. Frank's
Unlimited creation.
It's got an ad on YouTube. I skip it.
I've been indicted through.
Okay, now this is a scene from the movie Three Rules of Winning scene.
Yeah, it's good.
That sounds very Trumpy. All right. So we'll just a little bit of this, see what we might learn.
I've been indicted 3 times. I won 36-0. Government 0. Roy Cohn 36. I'm a winner.
How do you win?
You want to know how to win? I'm going to let you in on a little secret. There's rules. Roy Cohn's 3 rules of winning. The first rule is the simplest. Attack, attack, attack.
Civil rights, cats.
I hope the pots you're stuffing's got real money, because after I get you fired, you're sure gonna need it.
Excuse me?
Unless you drop your baseless litigation, I am countersuing the Justice Department for
$100 million, and you are gonna rue the day that you ever filed this.
Who is this?
It's Roy Cohn calling on behalf of my client, Donald J. Trump. Always let it ring twice. To whom do I owe the pleasure?
Mr. Cohn, this is J. Stanley Pottinger, head of the Civil Rights Department of the United
States Department of Justice.
Wow, I'm sure your mother's very proud.
How dare you threaten one of my attorneys? I should have you disbarred for speaking to her that way.
Stan, Bubba, why don't you calm down? That never happened.
Barbara Katz has worked for me for 20 years. You threatened her, and now she...
Sounds like maybe she's hormonal or something like that.
What did you say?
Rule 2. Admit nothing. Deny everything.
Objection. The Civil Rights Division did not file a lawsuit. Frankly, it compiled a 48-page press release, as far as I can tell. Now, the government has failed to spell out one single fact concerning alleged discriminatory practices against blacks by the Trumps. I motion to have this case dismissed on summary judgment.
Overruled. Counselor, continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. Agent Green, what led you to believe that you were denied a lease at Trump Properties based on your race?
Well, not only did the newspaper advertise...
That's Walter, DOJ. He runs the show.
I saw 3 Caucasian couples approved before me.
Objection, speculation.
Mr. Cohn.
How can you say for sure they were Caucasian?
Please allow Agent Green to answer the question.
I've seen Puerto Ricans whiter than my tush after a long winter.
Your Honor.
Marvin, how are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you. How do you feel about your chances?
The government's case is phony as a $3 bill. Let's just say we're in a very strong position.
Mr. Trump, do you think you can beat the U.S. government?
We're very good about this.
One more question, Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump, one more question.
We're really going to win, aren't we?
Are you out of your mind? Of course not.
What?
Donald, your case is a total dog.
But you said that they had no evidence.
Your leasing agents marked black applications with a C. That C didn't stand for cotton candy, now did it? Raul, I'm late for a little rendezvous. Step on it.
Roy, you said we'd win hands down.
Rule 3. This is the most important rule of all. Okay? No matter what happens,
You have to drive
no
this
matter
fast?
what they say about you, no matter how beaten you are, you claim victory and never admit defeat. Never admit defeat, Donald. You want to win, that's how you win. Walter, my good friend, what a nice surprise.
It's nice to see you too, right?
Your bulldog cat's just being tough on us.
Barbara is one of our best.
You know, this case isn't fair.
All right, we'll save it for watching it, but we got the 3 rules, and no matter what happens, we win. Yeah, we're going to be so tired. Oh, stop the winning. We're so tired of winning. Win.
Well, just without playing out the rest of that scene, because I know it slows down for people listening. I know that's not great radio. We acknowledge that, audience. Thanks for sticking with us. But that last scene, he sits down with the head of the the local DOJ that he pointed out in the second scene there. And
it's only got a minute and a half left. Should we watch it? I mean,
yeah, sure. You'll hear what happens.
All right.
You and I both know that.
Well, you know what, Roy? Justice is complicated.
Justice is complicated?
Yeah.
You know what could get complicated, Walter? Is a married man committing certain indiscretions with the Cabana boys in Cancun. The last I checked, homosexuals were barred from federal civil service.
What do you want, Roy?
Why don't you do the right thing and make this case go away?
You know I can't do that.
Imagine your wife reading in the Post that her husband is a fairy. Is that what you want? Say hello to Myra and the kids.
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw.
Okay. You got to be willing to do anything to anybody. We got that lesson. So after seeing that, what do you think, Trump thinks about the Epstein list and some other stuff you got on congressmen and doing kind of, he wouldn't do that. That'd be wrong.
Right. And even whether how tied up he is in this or not, and look, maybe it's even legitimate that he just feels like he knows how many people are involved. I think, look, he's a deal maker, as they say, and and like he's good, but think about how many deals he's made, whether it's to maybe, I mean, this is legit. Like what if he's talked to Apple or some company that's overseas manufacturing, says, look, I need you to bring the manufacturing back. It'll help America, help our workers, make us look good. Well, there's a deal. And maybe part of that deal is, hey, I hung out with Epstein. Can you make that go away? He goes, all right, I'll make sure it doesn't come out, but bring the companies back. That could be in many ways one of the bargaining tools, because all these people are involved on both sides of the aisle. And in a way, Trump is one of the few people who gets that world. He was partying with all these people. Heck, this movie, you see some interesting parties, Ernie. I'm just telling you. So, and that's the world. So, and he understands. He understands the mob. He understands politicians. He understands journalists. That's one of the reasons why he's such a fascinating character. He gets, and all these people were hanging out with Epstein. Forgetting the whole Israel angle, right?
This is one thing. There's always the art of the deal, and it reminds me of that. This is what Bob always brings up. We make a deal. What happened in Kelly's Heroes is that the retreating Germans, they were hauling a bunch of gold that they had in some bombed out vault bank of whatever the hell. And I don't think they knew that they had it. Well, the characters played by, God, what was it? Clint Eastwood, Telly Savalas, Donaldson, a lot of big stars back then. It was 1970 World War II tank movie kind of thing. Well, they go, maybe they don't know. Maybe we would just go up to the Germans and say, hey, man, just stand down all your Tiger tanks and we'll split up this gold, And there was this scene about a deal. Let's go ahead. It's only, 30 seconds, but I think this is the one you'll get it.
How things going with the bank?
Nothing. The Sherman's broken down and nobody's gonna move that tiger out of the square.
Make a deal.
What kind of a deal?
A deal. Maybe the guy's a Republican. Business is business. Right?
A deal. Maybe he's Republican. So we'll make a deal. So that is kind of, I think of Trump in that scene all the time. And after watching the trailer for the Cohn deal, you can kind of feel, and it's been successful right up until it's not. And it always comes down to principle, and it comes down to who you attack and why. And I don't think, because of his success, because of the way he's done this, he doesn't understand the tactical, strategic mistakes that he made by opposing Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene. That was a death nail in his coffin.
Yep.
And I don't think he gets it. Then you get this, Charlie Kirk thing goes away. On the Israel issue, of course, comes up, and Candace Owens is not letting this thing go. I mean, she's going to be there until they put a bullet in her head. And then you have this Nick Fuentes guy that just, pops up out of nowhere, but it's representative of what's been building up behind the scenes.
Wait, and you forgot one, the whole Thomas Crooks thing that just dropped, that it took a journalist called Tucker Carlson to do more on his own than the whole damn FBI. So
I watched that. That is weird, too,
Yeah.
There's something being hid.
But just everything from all angles. I mean, it's the complete antithesis of what he ran on, which I said earlier, at its core, what MAGA, what this movement was an anti-corruption. It was just, you just knew that this government it kind of needed like a spring cleaning, or actually a fire hose to come in and blow this thing out. I mean, the whole thing was drain the swamp. Right?
No, and Epstein was a perfect example. I tell you where it really comes from, that, got all the receipts and the details, has been a young woman named Whitney Webb. Whitney, been on the show, and I was really more concerned about her. I mean, it's not a big surprise, all the stuff that she uncovers, and that's what she wants to detail more. But I'm going, why you? Why did you care? Why did you latch on? Why? So if you want a unique interview about Whitney Webb and how she thinks and why she, there you go. You're not getting that anywhere else. But I would like to talk to her again and get, give me the highlights, because I've listened to a lot of her podcasts that she's done and so on. I catch a little bit here and there and so on, and it's detailed, but we know it's bad guys being bad. And no, they're bad. They're bad, evil. So this is not a big surprise to me. What's the surprise to me is who comes up against them. And they're popping up like weeds all over the world. And it is something, and this is where our project that we're going to be doing into this year comes in. And I'm just, lining up the right people to give it the best chance of success to hit viral just for a little bit. That's all you got to do, a little bit. And I'm very, a lot of things are pointing to its time. And that was one thing, a lot of times that we've done this kind of stuff. And how did you know? And I'm like, how'd you not know? It depends what you're looking at. It's everything, especially in political activism, is timing. It's all about the timing. It's it's Super Bowl time. Well, what's coming up? A lot of things. The economy's going to take a dirt nap. We have, it's going to be a food thing. We got the midterms coming up. We got, this shutdown is just a few months. They're going to go through this all over again in January, February, or whatever. It's just so stupid. And I'm just lost interest. I don't care. It's not going to make any difference anyway. The economy is going to do what it's going to do. The petrodollar is going to be abandoned. We have competition worldwide. They're going to push, central bank digital currencies, but they're not going to call it that. They're going to say, well, it's just, it's a crypto. You want a crypto, right? Well, here's a crypto. And now we have, I'll show you guys this. Take a look at this. Bitcoin. There it goes. It is $87,000 from 124 down to 87,000. Now, when did we get it? Let's see, 2016. They only had this graph goes to 2016 was 453. I remember in like 09 it was $1.60. Okay, and I got like my first Bitcoin at $3.80 something cents. Of course, I don't have it anymore, but I've got. I just found one of the 4409, we're getting out winter clothes, one of the hoodies that 4409 had. I think that was a Bitcoin. So I got, $100,000 or $87,000 hoodie, there, along with a bunch of others. So this has been, just so amazing that we are looking at a lot of consternation is coming. And what is going to be the flower that rises out of that? It's not going to be Trump or anybody like him. It's going to be a Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massey ticket of something, libertarian freedom, leave me aloneism, Tucker, jumps on whatever kind of thing. The Turning Point USA is here in Arizona. Both Frank and I have been there. I've been inside, gone to, met people, whatever. But the point is that I don't see it having a future, not like Students for Liberty, which I just had the editing director, the editor, the director of editing, whatever, on this morning right before the show. And this has been, I really drilled down on, who's your audience? How many? You need one person per university, 10, 5, a chapter start. What is it that your goal? Then the night before, I had on the Arizona project these 6 people from around the world. One was from Uganda, Entebbe, Uganda. One was from Nicaragua. One was from Argentina, Bolivia, Czech Republic, and it's not. Czechoslovakia. You got to say Czech Republic or they shoot you. I found that out. So you got, from Czech, and then there was one other, I think. But these are people, and in the past we've had Hiro, a guy from Japan. We've had, that Frank got to meet, and we had. So all of this, I'm going, what is it that drives you? What brought you over to this side of the fence? It was, Hazlitt, Rothbard, Mises. It was a book. But why did you read the book? What professor gave it to you? What got down this road? Then it was, We the Living or Anthem or Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. They don't jump right into Atlas Shrugged. That's like a thing. But, a 1,200-page book. But this has been a seed on all these people, and now is the time. I remember during the financial crash in 08, 09, all the Wall Street guys were reading Atlas Shrugged. I did talking to my brother-in-law. He's going to be visiting, for the holidays with his family. And I remember he was saying, yeah, he read it, he gets it, he understands, what's up. And all of his colleagues, they're all reading Atlas Shrugged to understand what the shit just happened. So this has been my life as an activist. All the things that I pay attention to and put effort into is building up to prime time again. It'd be Super Bowl time. Well, what happens? I don't know exactly, but there's a shift. There's an awareness. There's a spontaneous order. There's an uprising, and I'm thinking, and what I anticipate is that a necessity is going to be food production, homeschooling, occupying the land, insulating yourself from this kind of stuff just to survive, educate your children, and bring up generation next in the way to which we want an America first thing, certainly American individual rights thing. And when they do make America great again, and it turns into how much money and bombs you got to give Israel or something, whoa! So here comes Fuentes with this AF. I didn't know what the hell AF was for. It was America First. So you have all these, and then they call them groypers for some reason of Pepe Frog crap, whatever. I don't care. It's, they, them, kids wanting to, whatever. So this is the time. The time for what? Time for education, time for understanding, time for an overlap of interest. And what is that? The philosophy of liberty is about self-ownership. Just like we did in Tahrir Square during Egypt and the Arab Spring, we burned up thousands, recorded on DVD, thousands of the philosophy of liberty that was translated into Arabic. Then we went ahead and we included Cato had these books that were Constitution, Declaration of Independence, Constitution, and Bill of Rights. The left side was English, the right side was Arabic. And you just turn it page by page, and you just went to a translation right there. Well, the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights, damn. Now, the Constitution, you got bad guys in, they're going to use it as a tool, be bad. But, we tried that, maybe they can do better. But the Declaration and the Bill of Rights, enormously powerful. At the time, it was called ISIL, International Society for Individual Liberty. And what we had done is they are the ones that, would curate all the different translations. So you'd have it in English, and it was like 100 and something languages. I mean, Apache. I mean, it was amazing, but they didn't have it in Arabic. So we paid $1,000 for a guy in Moscow to translate that, and then I had some libertarian Arabic guy that I knew, and they went over and made sure it was, the right translation and so on. Then we recorded it in what's called PAL format. Their DVD players play a different format for whatever reason. I have no idea. So we did that. Then we had them shipped to Alexandria, and activists took it to Tahrir Square, passed it out, and then International Society for Individual Liberty went, what the shit? Ernie, what did you do? It exploded on the internet, and it was mostly Morocco and Jordan. I don't know why, but Morocco, Jordan, and of course Egypt and Saudi Arabia and a lot of the Arabic-speaking countries. But this was a good example of this. It was the time. Why? Because they were in the streets in Egypt. And just like with the Tea Party thing, they had all these other guys come jumped in front of the parade, and it was the Muslim Brotherhood. And they go, yeah, we got to, in the street, vote for us. Well, that had nothing to do with why they were in the street. It got hijacked. But what happened? The Philosophy of Liberty video told them what it was about. Do you really need Pharaoh number 483 or whatever? How about the purpose of government is individual rights support? The philosophy of liberty is you own yourself. What a concept. Man, that had an impact, lasting. So you're going, okay, now's the time in America for that again. And we're going to do it worldwide. And the reason I kind of dinged was the guy from Uganda, John Mutabi, I think it was. John, in Uganda, came across that video, and it kind of sent him down the path, and boom, here it goes. I was talking to James Corbett about it last night, and he goes, same thing with me. It was like 2007. I didn't know it, but I saw that, and I go, yeah, what philosophy is that? Where'd that come from? It's the libertarian philosophy, and where it started, a guy named Ken Schoolin, I've been communicating with this last night and this morning. He's one of the head guys, or was, at ISIL. Well, the Barack Obama, ISIS, he started calling it ISIL. And that made them get, all of a sudden, here come the hackers, here comes denial of service. They had to change their name to International Liberty of whatever the hell, because they wanted to make sure that they didn't get, more headway as we were doing all this stuff. And I'm like, man, they will stop at nothing. But they're still there. And they're kind of associated with, Young Americans for Liberty and the Students for Liberty and all this kind of stuff. So I'm going, okay. I go, Ken. He was an economist at Hawaii University, and a friend of his owned several radio stations in the Hawaiian Islands. Well, he did like PSAs, public service announcements, that was 3 minutes on economics. And we used to play it on my first radio station that I went to, KXXT. No, it was Katie, whatever, is one of my first one. And we would play these that he had already been playing in Hawaii, and it was a 3-minute thing of an economic lesson. It was just, and he wrote a book called The Adventures of Jonathan Gullible, which is kind of a, parody of the Lilliputians and the adventures of Gulliver and, being tied down by these little bureaucrats kind of thing, what was going on. So that book and those PSAs were taken up by an activist named Lux Luther, I think, and he was a libertarian in Canada, and he and one of the other activists, when I first started doing radio in 03, they would take the raw files that we do on these zip disks, it was the only thing that could hold that much data, and they would take, it'd be like a week delay because they had to take them, edit them, and put them up because, oh my God, they got a libertarian morning show in the major media market, we got to help with that. So all this MP3, everything that I've ever said from the beginning, has been up because of these activists. Well, that guy is the one that took, this is his activism, this is the kind of stuff that he did. He took those PSAs and the book that Ken Schoolin, the economist in Hawaii, and he took that and he created this video called The Philosophy of Liberty. And it's just like an 8-minute, stick figure, whatever thing. I'll play 30 seconds of it and you guys kind of get it. But it is a very clear, understanding explanation of what liberty is, how to recognize it, what it means, how, you can't do certain things and call your self-liberty person. So that was very powerful tool in the 90s, 2000s, whatever, when I first saw it. Now you'll see, and they kept taking it down and canceling, deplatforming, but it's so ubiquitous, it's everywhere. Just put in Philosophy of Liberty. You might put Philosophy of Liberty video or something like that. It'll blow up all over the place. Then you can just put in what language. In Spanish, in Russian, in freaking Arabic, Chinese. It's all the same. They just change the text. This is what we're going to do. James Corbett, we created opensourceeducation.online to feature a lot of his best videos that explain it to you. That's why we call him Professor Corbett now. So we're going to go ahead. He was inspired by that to get him an understanding of what the hell was going on in 07 when he first started doing the Corbett Report. So he's going to watch it, do an evaluation of it, go over the impact of it, some history of it. I know some stuff, and we'll get it done. Well, then who's going to help promote it? I get, Dr. Frank and his crowd, got our crowd. We got the Ron Paul, the Levolution, Young Americans for Liberty, the Students for Liberty, Ken Schoolin's, International Liberty of We Kick Butt. And we're going to take and relaunch this thing again. It's already done. It's already effective. It's already clear. And it's already translated into 100 whatever languages. So we do this with the push from Corbett, International Society of Individual Liberty guys, Students for Liberty, Young Americans, Levolution. Now, at this time, when all of this is, everything that's in there is coming to fruition, na-na-na-na, na-na-na-na-na, this is what I do. And it's all about timing. I'm an opportunist. And I have been convinced that now is the time. And when I talk to these guys from around the world, these young people, that was one of the common threads. It's what they talk about. Well, The Road to Serfdom by Hayek, and Mises and Rothbard, and this. And I'm going, well, why would you even read that? Who did that? What teacher? What coach? What parent? What grandparent? What uncle gave you? Well, there was this one video philosopher. Whoa! See, there's always a seed. There's always a beginning. There's always a something. And even the people that encourage them to read a certain book, they may have been influenced by that. So that is our new project. December 3rd, Corbett and I do another show. We're going to have Ken Schoolin on, the economist from Hawaii. That's, head of International Liberty. And then we're going to certainly affiliated with them. And then the Students for Liberty, Young Americans, Ford, so on. This is an Ernie thing that I do that really doesn't tie back to me. I never, nobody knew I did the Ron Paul Levolution stuff for months, year, until I was outed by Brian Doherty from Reason. But this is how I do this. And this audience, you guys are going to see it evolve and happen in semi-slow-mo over to the next month or 2 or 3 or 4, because this is a long-term project. Then you have the introduction to all the other stuff. Occupy the Land, the show, the this, the that, the other people's stuff, what they're doing. Like Trevor from Students for Liberty has his own resources that he has favorite videos that he's done. Some have gotten a lot of attention, some haven't, but they're timed. The material and the lessons are perfect for now. This is the project. And I think Dr. Frank should do his part by spreading it around, to his peers. What do you think, Frank?
Yeah. I'd be on board. Not a problem. So before we get off the Epstein component, I was just wondering, well, actually, I was just wondering, like, why? I mean, I know this kind of goes in circles, but what could be so damning for him to blow this entire Capitol, is what I was saying earlier. But what's a shame is he, had the wind at his back to sit there and, to be the hero, bring a lot of the independents, drain the swamp at least to expose this thing, and then get ahead of it. And then after all this stuff comes out, and a lot of it probably involves Democrats. Now, hopefully, if he was really honest, he'd also expose Republicans as well and just let the chips go where they are. And he truly, if he wanted his face on Mount Rushmore, he had a chance at it. If he would have pulled that off, and Republicans, Democrats, whoever, he really could have gone down in history. He had that potential. And it all went up in smoke. And so by him holding on to it for whatever the reason is, he's now given the entire momentum to the Democrats now. So anything that comes out, if Democrats are really the most culpable here, right, and it's Clinton and this and that, all these people come out, the Democrats can easily just turn this thing around. It's so easy to just say, oh, of course he's blaming Clinton. Of course he's blaming all these Democrats because look at all the, because he's the one that hit it. If he really wanted this out, why did he wait until the last minute? Why did he have to prove his weakness? And Thomas Massey and MTG, but Thomas Massey broke the back of MAGA. All right. I mean, that was the day. It's when that vote was forced, and Trump is sitting there trying to force with Kash Patel. They're trying to get Nancy Mace and everybody to switch their votes up to literally Sunday night. And that's when Savarda, she's the one that got the text on her phone at 9 o'clock at night, our time, midnight East Coast. Trump now is back in control. I, Donald Trump, say, I give authority and permission to all of you to release all the files, let it all out. I'm still in control. And, my wife is the one that was just laughing. And I was asking her what she was laughing at. And she told me that text. And, Savarda is not into this as much as we are. I mean, she's certainly not clueless. She certainly follows it like Donna and all of us. But I heard her just guffaw, and I'm thinking, what are you laughing about, Sima? And she got how just ridiculous it was and how Trump looks like he looks about
winning.
Yeah. He went from the president, 6'2", whatever, and he looks kind of like mini me at this point. And that happened. He got deflated in everything in that moment in front of not only, of course, the world and whatever, but his own base. But also, and this is really important, we're going to see how this plays out. This is why I think he's done completely, is the Republican establishment. Donald Trump did the ultimate deal with the devil. He would go for the base, and then he'd get in, and he'd surround himself with establishment. And I defended Trump, as Ernie knows, because we had a lot of fights about it, the first administration. I said, he was new to all this, and I do believe a lot of that is true. And you and I both agree. Ernie read me the Riot Act, both on and off the air, and probably half serious, but half not, which was like, Frank, if you're still defending this guy, if he does it again, I'm not going to contaminate Freedom's Phoenix. And I agreed. I was not lying. I said, of course, I feel the same way. He learned his lesson. He spent 4 years in the wilderness getting attacked and 91 indictments and shot at. And I mean, it's like he was the patron saint of establishment politics to stop an anti-establishment candidate. Like, you're thinking, and the whole point of Trump is that he was rich, so he couldn't be bought, and he's fighting back, and he's like, all right. So then he gets in, and there was no excuse to put Marco Rubio or any of these swamp creatures back in, and he turns into the whole thing. So he burnt the whole thing up on fire. And now you've got the Democrats who now hold the ball of public opinion, because anything Trump says, they can say, "Well, you held on." No. Well. Anyway, but the Republican establishment, senators, reps, deep state people, but mainly the representatives in this case. The representatives, they were the ones that were against Trump this whole time, right? I mean, I don't know why this is brought up even more. But, Ben Shapiro, although he's a podcaster or whatever, but big influential guy. So Shapiro, Marco Rubio, we can go down the whole list. All of them, Mark Levin, all of these people were never Trumpers. They fought him for the last 10 years. It wasn't until months before the election, this last one, when they had their fundraising and suddenly the establishment got on board, and now he's surrounded by establishment. And now you've got establishment people, Lindsey Graham, who disavowed Trump, right after January 6th, on the House floor, right? On the floor, or the Congress floor, right? When they had the... And so these people they bailed on Trump. They did not support him during his first administration, when the Russiagate, all the Republican establishment were quiet. Mitch McConnell, they never came to the aid of the president. It was his base. And that's what it was. And so this is the biggest betrayal to his base. I mean, to the American people, in my opinion, but to his base. And he's all about, this is what ticks me off. Here goes my blood pressure. Is that Trump's whole modus operandi is loyalty. That's his thing. Loyal. You got to sit there and be loyal. You know what, Trump? It goes both ways. You can't sit there and demand loyalty and this base and how much have people suffered. Maybe not Ernie. Well, actually, Ernie has too. At least it was a paid-for flight to Washington, D.C. Ernie could tell you guys all about it again. But it's like, we all suffered in our own way. whether it's having to take, whether government coming up to us, or losing friends and family, or losing jobs, or all sorts of things that we have all gone through, people who have been on the MAGA train, and for 10 years, or just going to a Trump rally and taking off from work, standing in line in the heat in Arizona for 9 hours, getting up at 3 a.m. I mean, it's this type of stuff people don't normally do. They did all of this as a sacrifice for a greater concept of trying to drain the swamp, if nothing else, or expose it so that we could try to pick up the pieces later, or whatever you're for supporting Trump. And the never Trumpers were always just sitting idle or attacking him, whichever. And until this last election, they all start to say, all right, we're now MAGA, and now Mark Levins of the world and the Marco Rubios of the world are sitting there trying to tell me what MAGA is, that they're MAGA and we're not. That Lindsey Graham is MAGA and Trump's going to do fundraising for Lindsey Graham, and yet sit there and promote putting millions of dollars to get Thomas Massey out. Or Marjorie Taylor Greene is now Marjorie Trader Greene. And speaking, it boggles the mind. It boggles the mind. And almost like a petulant child, what was fascinating is when you kind of knew this, when he attacked Taylor Greene, what was Saturday or Friday or Saturday of this past week, when he did that, she didn't take the bait. She didn't sit there and start yelling at him back. She kept her decorum, and she even said, look, I still care for, I forgot how she worded it, but look, I understand he's upset because I can't change my vote. I have to support, the victims and what's right. And I still, in so many words, she said, I still, I care for, President Trump, and I wish him well. And I hope he comes back to the foundation that we all ran on. And that's pretty much what she first said. Now, she said something else later we'll get to, but that's all she said. But because she would not capitulate, he went nuclear, and he went on a tweet or truth binge. I don't know if you saw it, Ernie.
It's like, I'm not endorsing her. She's bad. Even called her a traitor.
Tweets. Yeah, it was
called her a traitor.
I know, but it was like tweet after tweet after tweet. Like, it was just incredible. It was kind of like
him.
Well, I heard that there was a 38-year-old woman that actually ghost tweets for Trump. A lot of the tweets, she's the only person who speaks in his voice with a lot of the truths. However, I do not believe in any way the attacks on Green were from this ghost tweeter. That was Trump, and it was one after another. But it reminded me of like a spurned boyfriend, And all
he
of a sudden,
just watched his Apprentice movie.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so he's sitting there, attack, but it was just one after the other, like a stream of consciousness of anger, thinking he can browbeat her into submission, because I think he realized that his entire I think he gets it now. His entire presidency of whatever efficacy he has, his legacy for his children, that's a whole nother thing. He just damned the entire empire he was building for his kids. The Trump brand now is going to be synonymous with like Nixon, like a traitor. He's calling it, and I think that's why he went ballistic on that, because he knew all of his political capital, everything, whatever's going behind the scenes, he threw it all. He told me, Frank Tamburri, he looked in the camera and he says, Frank Tamburri, if you don't shut up about Epstein, you're not MAGA and I don't want your vote. He told me that. Remember that, Ernie? Said that right to my face. So it's like, all right. So it all came down to Green. And I think he's smart enough with her going on The View. And I told my better half, I said I was going to bring up The View interview with Green on the show. And, you and I were ranting and raving like we always do last week. And I never got to it. And then our audience, if you remember, Ernest Hancock was the one who brought up The View interview.
Yeah, I remember.
I was shocked. I told Savard, I said, no, I know we talked about it, but what was fascinating, that's normally something I would bring up, because usually Ernie never admits that he'll even watch The View. The fact that Ernie admitted he watched it, and of all things, we never talk about The View, and you did it first, so it's on you this time. But what's fascinating is that you and I both never watched that show. We both, for different reasons, realized there was something important to watch. We both came away from it going, wow, that was a really positive interview, politically, information-wise. There was a lot, you could like dissect from that. And she looked really good. And now she's standing behind behind the women. And when they did the vote the other day, when all the reps, the turncoats that were against it, suddenly they all had their pontification of why I have to stand up for women's rights and for righteousness. Yeah, they're all a bunch of liars. But Marjorie Taylor Greene, if you watched, she was sitting next to almost every one of the representatives. They would stand up in an empty chamber, to do their little thing. And she was sitting there the entire time. So every single clip that you're going to see of representatives talking about why this is righteous, and Marjorie Taylor Greene is right sitting in the frame on every one of them. So she knows she's got the cat by the tail on this thing. As a woman, as a pugilist, as we say, pugilist, I always say it wrong.
Pugilist.
Pugilist. I will never get that word down. Huge.
Pew.
All right, thank you. It's a very constructive word for our discussions. They never say it right. But all of that, and so Greene is, that's a whole other conversation about her political aspirations, but she is strategizing to take the MAGA base or the America First base and this new unification of both wings that I was talking about earlier. And I think Trump sees it, and he's seeing his influence go away. And the fact that he couldn't browbeat what's left of his MAGA base to stop this vote, it means that his influence is done not just with MAGA. That's not even what the important part is. He lost it with the establishment, and that's the part that he deserves this, because he turned on his base for the establishment. The wars, we're going to go to Venezuela as the complete wag the dog. That's a whole other conversation, and all of this that's going to happen. And now, okay, you chose your new friends, Trump. You're going with what you think are the cool kids with the money, but they got little problems with Epstein, and you're trying to make deals, and you're thinking, you're finally part of the group now or whatever. Fine. Now that MAGA now has abandoned you, and now that the people have, it's not going to have the support this time when he gets indicted or whatever might happen for an impeachment hearing. Do you think that the establishment Republicans are going to have his back and do you think they're going to defend him to the end when whether it's true or not, these allegations about Epstein and this and that and all this stuff comes out, and they're, the food fight and the ouch quit it and all of this? Do you think if the MAGA base isn't there to support him, are the Lindsey Grahams, I'm done with Trump now, the fair weather friends, are they going to be there at that point? No. I mean, I that's my thinking. I don't know for sure. Maybe they will. Maybe they're going to say,
"Yeah, no, this is a popular uprising of people that were, came from a lot of things, and a lot of it was awareness they got during the 8 campaign, the 12, the 16. This was, a civics lesson for America, and then for them to come around what he espoused and a lot of people that supported him, and then for him to abandon it. You got Democrats, RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, and they're probably the better ones in his cabinet than the other guys. So this is weird. Okay, now this Nick Fuentes, why is he so popular? Nikki Haley's son explains. So Nikki Haley's son is on with Tucker here, and I wanted to get to the last 10 minutes of it. They're kind of wrapping up on something. I don't know what's going on here. I just picked this. Tucker's going to ask him a question or something, and then.
Ernie, before you play, can I just tell you, if you're interested more in the Nick Fuentes stuff, that's more in the beginning of it. At the last 10 minutes, believe it or not, I watched the whole thing. The last 10 minutes, the whole thing is about religion and Christianity and about spirituality in young people, why young men are turning to God.
I just want to get to the
end.
No,
that's fine. I just want to let you know the end has nothing to do with the political, but it is cultural. So, if that's the part you want to play.
Well, they get to the solutions and the future and predictions and whatever towards the end of interviews.
Well, no, but this one, it doesn't. That's what I'm trying to let you know.
Well, we're going to find out.
All right, go.
It's at 1:20:48. And the total is 131:42. So it's like 10 minutes to go, and we'll just play a little bit. Here we go.
What makes happier children, more successful
Yeah.
children. It's a really beautiful thing. And the fact that people are rejecting that is very, very sad.
It is really sad.
Yeah.
I also get the sense that there's an increase in religious faith among young men.
100%. 100%.
Really?
Yeah. Which is, I mean, that came out of nowhere, really. Like, no one expected that. And, you know, good.
No what?
Right? Like, God willing, that'll spread everywhere. And we'll be like that everywhere.
When did you first notice that? I mean, you grew up in the South. You grew up in a nominally Christian culture because it's the South, right?
Right.
But people talking to each other, young people, about God, mentioning God.
Yeah.
When did that happen?
So there's always been like cultural Christianity, right? But there's a difference between what we're seeing now, which is actual lived faith in Christ. And we're seeing that in church attendance is going up among young men. Really, I don't know what brought it about. The only thing I could attribute it to is probably the Holy Spirit.
Yep.
And I don't know why it's happening now, but I hope it grows and I hope it continues to flourish because it's something our society desperately, desperately needs.
What was
Yeah, they're going to go. They're looking for a traditional wife. Is what's going on, man. What the hell?
Yep.
I need, something that I love, something that I can protect, something that I can nurture, something that makes me feel like a. Wait, what am I? A man. Make me feel like a man. Let's do that man thing. So this is what I keep saying. Humanity marches on. Whenever it sees, feels, witnesses, participates in existential existence of, extinction of themselves, their culture, their future, their possibilities, people act in what they perceive to be their own self-interest.
Life
every single time.
Hey, and we have to just quote right here, Jeff Goldblum, life will find a way.
Find a way. Find a way. Damn Skippy. Find a way. I watched the most recent Scarlett Johansson Jurassic Park. I'm
Really? Really? You were that
like,
bored? You were that bored to watch that?
Well, I waited till it went to $3.99, but
okay.
But it was. I think what it was Black Widow protects people against dinosaurs. That's what it was. Any other character going out there, security whipping ass on dinosaurs, you wouldn't have believed unless it was Black Widow from Marvels. So I mean, that's what was going on. So it didn't piss me off. I didn't want my $4 back, but yeah, it wasn't. There's nothing inspiring. Before you go, give us a update on movies. Isn't there some cool movies coming? There's got to be something out there. Disney's taking a dump. What's out there that we can during the holiday season? We got whatever's coming this summer. There's really not other than Wick 47 or something. I mean, but I don't know anything that's coming that I'm interested in. Do you know anything?
Yes. So before I answer that question, I got some good news.
Oh yeah, the new Avatar's coming, Fire and something, whatever it is.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Well, Avatar's coming out soon, which there's a whole expose on some of the. When I say critical drinker, I mean those type of sites, and they all. Not that I'm parodying them, but I agree. I feel the same way that there's no pizzazz. Like Avatar is just like riding a roller coaster. It's like a theme park ride. You do the ride. It's a lot of fun. They usually have a story. They try to put a story in the ride. But if you ask yourself just 5 minutes later, eating a soft pretzel when you get off, what the story was, you don't even remember the story. It was just like that was a ride. And that's kind of what Avatar is. The CGI is fantastic. There's, it's spectacular to watch. But just think about it. The first two movies. I mean, Avatar, I think, still is the #1 grossing movie of all time, I believe. Unless I think maybe Avengers Endgame may have beat it. But the point is, it's like the #1 of all time. And the sequel was like #4 of all time, or #3. And yet, none of the actors in the movies have gone on to other things. Nobody's talking about it. You don't see people with posters of Avatar, kids playing with toys. There's barely even any video games. You'd think, they have a whole video game series with this thing. It hasn't gotten to the pop culture at all. So that just says something about the longevity and lasting power of it. It's more just spectacle. But The one interesting thing is that it will make $1 billion. I'm definitely going to go and take my family to see it, and then we'll probably forget about it. But it will be the only positive for Disney because Disney did not make it. Disney, though, is they're already called distributing it on behalf of Cameron, so they're just getting a small cut. So that'll look good for them, and then they're going to take credit for it. It's not theirs. You also have Moana, the new it's one of the Disney princess movies. You know, all these Disney remakes because they're creatively completely bankrupt, and every one of their movies has failed. Almost every movie in Hollywood has failed. In the last 3 months, there has not been one hit in 3 months. Now, and what you guys have to realize is that the entire industry was on the brink of collapse after COVID, of course. And they said, well, wait. And every year, it's kind of like kick the can down. You know, it's like with Epstein files any day now. So every year, like, oh, it'll come back. Well, the movies that were made during COVID, they had a lot of them had shutdowns and overruns. They couldn't make money because of all of that stuff. But the movies we're seeing now that are coming out now are the first generation of movies that were really begun after the lockdowns were let go. Because remember, every movie you see, it's like 3 years at least in production. So they started halfway through Biden's administration, and now we're starting to see them now. And so when they knew what movies were coming out, they put a lot of money into this new slate of movies that were all going to start coming out in 2025, this year. And the theater chains were being told at the conventions, like the networking conventions of theater owners, like Harkins and AMC would go to conventions and hang out and meet people from Paramount, and they'd bring in Tom Cruise and stars to get star power. And it's kind of like, these two markets come together, and it's a way for theater owners to be sold on what movies are coming out. Because remember, each production company's trying to get. It's kind of like Coca-Cola tries to get top shelf visibility in a supermarket, and RC Cola gets pushed to the bottom. So everyone's jockeying to see which movies are going to get like prime spot in 4th of July weekend. And so this is the showing exhibition that a lot of you guys don't maybe know that little industry just because I'm a geek and I happen to know about it. But anyway, they're all getting together. And the theater owners were like, look, man, like we're dying here. We have no one coming to our movies, and you guys aren't making anything that people want. You're putting the woke crap in there, and trust me, they were talking about it. So you guys keep putting woke stuff in the movies, and then you're sticking it in our theaters, and no one's coming to the theaters, and we're going bankrupt. And they're like, well, sell more popcorn, right? That's what they were told. Stuff it. So then they were told, here we go, survive until 25. That's been the motto for the last few years. Just survive till 25, because 2025 was when all the hits were going to be coming. You had Avatar. You had, I even forget how many Disney movies. You had the Marvel movies. We've covered, Captain America, Snow White, the big giant stuff. All these movies that we've been covering over the year. Each of these was guaranteed to be like $1 billion. How about Tron, the Tron movie? That was supposed to be like $1 billion movie. They put all this money in the Tron 3D IMAX. I could keep going, and we've covered many of them. Every single one of them has failed, or at least didn't really make much of a profit. The only movie that made any money, the only $1 billion movie of the entire year, actually was a Disney movie. And it was the Lilo and Stitch remake, which, strangely enough, is the only movie that I saw with my child. We actually went ourselves, and it was, not too bad. But, she just liked the old cartoon. But that's it. Every movie has underperformed, and I mean, in levels you don't realize. Like I think what was the one? Was it Running Man? The new Running Man movie came out. These movies cost, even on a slightly average budget for like a high concept film, maybe $120 million. And I think it was Running Man, or it was, which one was it? Maybe before. It was another movie. I think it was Running Man. It made $30 million. $30 million. I mean, $30 million is like what Ishtar made back in the day. And yet, $30 million is considered like a success. Like, wow, it blew past expectations. It made $30 million. Like they have lowered the bar and normalized what used to be like for $120 million movie. When it opens, the way it used to be, it would make usually its money back on opening weekend. So if it costs 120 million, they would make roughly 100 130 million between if the Thursday night pre-sales, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and that's how you and that and then,
well, a lot of the time the 100 million was marketing. That's one thing. They always make sure they lose money, because of the way the studios work this. But sometimes they get a popular one. They can't hide all the money. They make a shit ton of money, and then they take all the Marvel characters and turn them, lesbian and gay. So, I mean,
they've done all that. So 25. These theaters have been on fumes each year, and they were promised that all their best stuff, post-COVID, none of the COVID lockdown stuff affected them. They're going to get prime, new, post-COVID, high-property movies, and some of them aren't even going to be that much woke. A lot of them, like the Sydney Sweeney, and we have to always talk Sydney Sweeney. Oh, boy. But anyway, I saw the Hooters sketch that she was in from Saturday Night Live last year. Oh, that was hysterical. But anyway, but Sydney Sweeney is like the darling of the right. And she just did a movie that was, a boxing movie. It was her Oscar bait movie to be taken seriously. And that crashed. And the left is trying to blame it. Sydney Sweeney now is getting canceled. No, it's just no one's going to the movies for anything. Nothing. And so now we're at the end of 2025, and the theater owners are running into what Bitcoin people were thinking. Not to, get too much off topic, but, you Bitcoin people, and I know, the whole idea, four-year cycle, all of this, Bitcoin was supposed to be 230,000 a coin. Minimum is what a lot of these commentators are thinking by the end of 2025, right? I mean, and some people thought it should be even higher. Trump is in, Trump's endorsing Bitcoin. It's like it's a 4-year cycle. Everything's on track. It usually pumps towards the end of the year. I know all that. And yet, bam, and it's completely deflating. And what is it now, Ernie, by the way? You should check it. But that's the crestfallen view of Bitcoin people, right? And what is it?
Less.
So anyway, so that's how the Bitcoin
87,
people are.
86,000, whatever.
So the point is that they were promised, they really were sincerely counting on a much higher yield, and you're banking on it by the end of the year. And some people, of course, are leveraging their Bitcoin. Well, that's what the theater owners did. They were all holding on, taking loans, doing whatever to hold on to their theaters to survive till 25. And this is considered the worst year, I think, in cinema history. So the complete opposite of what they're expecting. So, and now if the stock market drops and everything, I guarantee we're going to be seeing all kinds of theaters closing. They just can't keep it up. And there's nothing in the pipeline to excite anybody. Even the new Avengers movie that they're throwing Gonspach money into, no one cares about. Avatar is going to make some money as a flash of the pan, and no one's going to care about it. So there's nothing there. The IPs, the new Moana movie I was talking about, the original just came out 7 or 8 years ago. There's children that saw it in preschool, and now they're still in school, and they're already doing the remake. And it's nothing but CGI. So with all that said, and I keep rambling about movies, is there any movie worth seeing from maybe people in our world that's high concept, intelligent, something that looks fantastic, and comes from a book that is it's epic. It's kind of like 2001: A Space Odyssey, and this is a movie that is popping up on all the geek sites. And I'm going to tell you what it is, audience, and I'm not even going to watch the trailer completely because I don't want any spoilers. So if Ernie, you want to play it, that's fine. I'm not going to watch it. But here it is. The movie, it comes out early 2026. And it is called Project Hail Mary. Project Hail Mary. And that is probably the only movie that, everyone's kind of going, wow, because the trailer looks fantastic. And from people who've read the book, and this is not just some cheesy book. This is like one of these, really kind of like a rendezvous with Rama, those geeks out there, Isaac Asimov level type of book about alien encounter, but it goes beyond that. It's not just another First Contact movie from the little I understand about it. But anyway, the trailer, the second trailer just dropped the other day, and it's getting rave reviews from the most cynical and critical people out there who've given up on Hollywood. So, if we get one good movie in 2026, this one might be it. And everyone
it's called what?
It's called Project Hail Mary. It sounds a little bit like the movie, one of my favorite movies of all time, actually, is called Sunshine. And it takes place in the near future where our sun is dying. And a group of scientists are put, like a last-ditch Hail Mary, are put onto a little ship to go to the sun, the first time humans have ever gone to the sun, to inject this probe into the sun to kind of reboost, like it's like a physics project to restart the sun so the sun doesn't die. But it's like a psychological noir film. It's the most gorgeous sci-fi movie I've seen. I love the matter of fact, when you and I and Donna, when we were in Texas with the eclipse, that was the music that Kendra and a lot of people are giving us credit for. They really enjoyed that music when during the eclipse. That was very beautiful. Well, it's about the sun. That's where the music comes from. It's a great movie called Sunshine.
I saw the trailer on this once. It's Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, the new one. Okay, so just before you go into that, Sunshine is the movie from like 15 years ago I'm talking about. It's a great sci-fi movie. I recommend it. I do acknowledge they don't stick the ending. They get a little stupid at the very end, but it's still worth watching. And it's from the guy who did 30 Days Later with the zombie movie, and then he did Slumdog Millionaire and a few other really good movies. So he's the one who did Sunshine. Well, this movie where Ernie now is going to be commenting on, called Project Hail Mary, it's very similar. It sounds like that the sun is dying. It's almost like a rip-off concept, and they have to try to save the sun, but it goes a whole different direction. But it's because Project Hail Mary, it's the Hail Mary of humanity, and they're going all in to save all of humanity. Whatever happens, I don't know much more beyond it, and I want to stay spoiler-free. But go ahead if you want to play the trailer. It's up to you.
Well, I'm playing it up here without the sound.
Okay.
But it's he's a scientist or a teacher or something, and they select him to go to the sun because he knows something about something. Whatever. Yeah, it's always the doomsday scenario of we need more.
Yeah, but I just want to comment from what I'm reading, and it's hard because I don't want to read too much into it, but I got the gist really quick that this is one of those movies that it's like 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like you think it's about one thing, okay, we'll save the sun, but I heard it's a wild ride in an intellectual sense. It's not guns and lasers or aliens trying to kill you. It's nothing like that at all. It's like Solaris or something, which they don't make movies like that anymore. And having Ryan Gosling, who was in the new Blade Runner movie, he's got a very low key demeanor, so he'll be perfect for this movie.
Well, he was really good in what was it that he played in? It was
Drives. That was great.
With
The Fall Guy.
Fall Guy. Yeah, I really like that. I probably watched that 3 times.
Really? I've not seen that yet. I heard it's good. Yeah.
Oh, it's really it's fun. It's like a rom-com with action. I mean, it's really a good movie. I liked it. And there was another movie kind of it doesn't matter. But this is something that I watch. Maybe I'll wait a year till it gets down to $5.99. I might even give them, like $6.99. I used to go to the movies all the time, and I don't anymore because it's really expensive. $400 popcorn. I mean, I just don't get enough out of it rather than waiting. And I can wait. I'm old, man. Time goes by fast. All of a sudden, boom, it's available on Prime, TV, whatever, don't care. So, and it used to be that we could get, when we were at our home in North Phoenix, what do they call it? Kobe, that you could, get a pirated version from just about anything, anywhere, and we'd play it. I remember, and it would buffer sometimes, and Frank would be like, no! That's not no. That's how you got to go to the theater. No, you're doing it wrong, Ernie. So he's a big movie.
Yeah, I stand by that too. Ernie would watch Blade Runner on his iPhone or something. You're killing me.
Well, this is in the televisions are one of my daughters had it's like, it's 100-inch, 90. I mean, it's some freaking wall size. Are you kidding me? And when we were doing the bedroom that we have there, we have, it's about from about 4 or 5 feet from the base of a queen-size bed is the wall that the TV goes on. So there's a big area there for a TV, and I'm wondering, man, do I go big? I mean, because they pay you $100 to haul these TVs off now. I mean, it's freaking ridiculous how cheap they are. And you just go, yeah, do I want, I put the surround sound and the dome of the, make it go, ooh, I'll never go to the movies. And I think that has a lot to do with it. People have created their own theater rooms to where they don't need to. And they can pause it, and they can go to the bathroom, and they can go get another drink, and they can, quiet down the dog, the kids, and whatever, and snuggle up and take a break and doing it's a better movie experience because going there and paying as much as they add sucks. So I'm like, it's just technology is changing. I remember seeing, I was advised to make sure when you go see the original Jurassic Park that you saw it in, I don't know, THX surround sound, whatever the hell. Because when the T-Rex, when he screamed the first time, and then I that was cool as shit. Sound definitely made the difference on that. Then you got, objects in this mirror are closer than they appear. So, it was a really good experience. I remember, I'm glad I saw at the theater Matrix. I'm glad I saw Princess Bride at the theater. I'm glad I saw, some of the Avatar, of course, and, 3D and stuff. We go to IMAX to see, Formula One, F1 with, Brad Pitt took some grandkids and their friends. And it's rare that I, support Hollywood enough to give them money for my attention they just piss me off. And my criteria has always been one thing. Did I want my money back? Did I feel that I was robbed of time and resources, wasted my, because Donna's always got to get the jumbo, oh my God, last her a week popcorn. And then she fills it up with popcorn and then runs the artificial, wish I was buttered stuff until it starts overflowing out the sides. I just like, wow, and she just inject it. So this is our movie experience. And you and I and Samarta, we've gone to the movies before and so on, but and you can see, I warn you, I go, watch this. Watch Donna. I mean, you think I'm kidding. But so that's another thing. You go to the movies with Frank, he's got this special seasoning, make you want to hurl, you're not allowed to sit next to me stuff. I don't know what the hell that crap is.
It's popcorn seasoning. It's meant for popcorn.
Smells like shit, man. Go sit over there. But I don't mind going to the movies, especially when Frank invites me. There's something that we wanted to see together just because. Like, I enjoyed the Reagan documentary or movie or whatever the hell it was. That was enjoyable. That bring tears to the eyes of people that lived through that, and it was just the emotional impact of those times and optimism and make America great again. It's morning in America kind of stuff when it was so bad. They had the OPEC embargo, oil thing, Cold War, Afghanistan, not going to the Olympics in Moscow. It grew up in the shadow of the mushroom cloud and there was hope. And then you find out what really happened, whatever. But it was the same thing I think is coming now. There is it's morning in America. Well, it's not going to come from the Trump administration and that crowd. It's just not. Because they found a way to get elected. They found, a way to, try and, bring a bunch of money and investment and gazillions of dollars into America because America tried to save the petrodollar, trying to whatever, but never went at the fundamental problem. The role of government to protect individual rights. If you free America and Americans, they will take care of it themselves. And that means that you're out of their control, and they can't allow that. If you're not in control, you're out of control. And that mentality has to be wiped away. And when you get people like that are advocating for that, and a lot of the activism that we do in this philosophy of liberty video and all that kind of stuff, and then you have libertarians like Massey, you have conservatives like Marjorie Taylor Greene, you have Tucker Carlson waking up and not being such an idiot. You have all these people that are starting to understand libertarianism as a philosophy and a way of life, which is very much Christian. It's individual responsibility, individual liberty, individual is a very Christian thing. It's not group politics, identity politics. It's about responsibility and the benefit of an individual. And you are responsible for yourself and your family and your community and your actions and, being able to get the life skills to keep you breathing in and out, and then those you love. So this is coming because it always does. Fourth turning, revolution, round and round it goes. Here we go. It's just, and you're seeing it like with Nikki Haley's son is going, yeah, young men are going to church. Why? Because they're lacking something. They're needing something. And I'll bet you a lot of it is to look for a traditional, not so woke, are you freaking kidding me? You need 6 inches, 6 figures, and I don't know, 6 something else. I can't remember, a 6-pack or whatever, to be able to be on my list of. Oh, and you got to have a house, and it has to have, this one woman, and it has to have a bedroom for each of my illegitimate kids, next. So this is, what I'm seeing is an evolution of just an understanding of what it is to be human, to keep on keeping on, to procreate, to have children, to go forth and multiply, take care of yourself, and by extension, you're able to take care of a family and your community, build a nice nest, find certainly, if not a soulmate, at least a partner in future if we don't die. I mean, something. This is what's coming because it has to. It always has. And America has enough freedom to be able to do it. But they're trying to take that away. I don't know where the support for they, them, those comes from. How is it? We're better Vikings than the other guys. We're better Klingons. We're better conquerors. We kill more people. We lay waste to more. We're on the side of the winners, and Israel wins because they killed all the Gazans. I mean, I'm just like, who are these people? They don't see what they're doing. They don't understand. If they understood, they wouldn't do it. Maybe they would. I don't know. But I'm looking at what Trump is doing now as, this may be the real Trump. This may be, he's a lame duck. He doesn't have to run again. He's going to get what he wants. What is that? I have no idea. That's why I've been saying for a decade with Frank, make America great again. What the F does that mean? What is he talking about? Well, we're starting to find out. Well, I don't think it's what people thought. So I'm looking for something like a Massey Green ticket. That would be awesome. Just out of the education, pissing off the bad guys. And they're trying to shut down release of Epstein files, so they're released that. We'll see what happens there. I don't know I don't care.
Yes, you do. Oh, why? Stop. Yeah, you do.
No, they already delayed it. I cared when they promised they were going to do it. They didn't do it. They had to have the pressure from the people.
No, you cared because of what it represents and the awakening and red pilling of general public opinion. Of course you care, because that's the engine that's driving.
It's too late. Whatever they come up with, I wouldn't believe anyway. Do you think they haven't been massaging the shit out of those files?
No, Ernie, no, I completely concur. I'm not saying that. Let me make it clear. This isn't like, oh, thank God Donald Trump signed it. Finally, it took him a while, but now we're going to see the truth. Of course not. This is so fucked up because, like I was saying before, when he had the ball, he could have released it all at once, get his face on Mount Rushmore, and all this be swept clean in both houses, the whole government, deep state, CIA, Mossad, whatever. This whole thing could be exposed, and then we could, let the chips go, and Trump would get credit for it. Instead, for whatever the reason, he held on to it. He held on to that hot potato too long, and now he got burnt because now the Democrats, the very people who are opposing having all this shown, remember when ABC News had the whole story, and it was Project Veritas that showed, what's her name had, Deborah Voss or whatever her name is, she had the story. And then they said, we got to deep it. I mean, this is the left that's been the media machine. All of that has been deep sixing it, and now the whole MAGA.
Oh God, it's not the left; it's the state. It's they, them, those.
Fine. It's they, them, those. It's all of them. It's not just the media. Ernie, of course I get that, but that was the point. Trump's job was to so-called drain the swamp, expose it, and if the Republicans didn't like it, screw them. That's what the whole MAGA base was. We're telling the Republican establishment, we're not with you. We're with draining the swamp, however you want to look at that. And instead, Trump joins the swamp or whatever he's doing.
You're still talking about Epstein?
He holds on. Right. That was the day it was all done. He holds on to the hot potato for whatever the reason. That's the mystery, because politically, not to get into it right now, we've covered it before, but the mystery is every angle, it doesn't make sense. Like there's something so damning or something going on that he's willing to burn this thing down. The problem is that now the Democrats, blood in the water, they're taking, let's just assume they're guilty, but now they can take it and spin it right back on Trump. I mean, it's exactly what they're doing. And I would do the same thing if I were them. And now Republicans will blame Democrats for stuff that leaks out by drip. The Democrats blame Republicans drip by drip. And then no one's going to feel like we have the truth. It's just going to be clouded in innuendo and redacted sections and fight over that. And all of this is going to go on and on. This is the Watergate.
You always claim to win. You always say you did it on purpose. Well, that was 4D chess with Trump, where he goes, no, we're not going to do it so we can get enough Democrats to vote for it to pass it, and then we'll get the Epstein files out. It was all part of my strategy from the beginning, little
So at this point, Ernie, it doesn't even matter what comes out, because anything that comes out, it's going to be it's all smoke screen, and it could be the truth at this point, and no one's going to believe it. So no, I'm not obtuse to that, Ernie, but that's the point. It shows you how deep this is that Trump is exposing the deep state, as I knew he would. He's just doing it indirectly as a participant now. That's fine. But now he's bringing Americans out of, they're saying, I don't want to vote, I don't care, or you know what, both parties are just as screwed. They spent their life with the deep state having us hate each other, and maybe the people through podcasts, through independent journalists, independent, social media, the new media that is occurring, that they can't stop. Like Nick Fuentes, debanked and everything, and he's more powerful than ever. That is the movement. Whatever this is turning into, that is the future. And it's going to be run by young people who are well connected, who've been ignored, who've been angry, and now they're connected with the social media and computers. As the adults have been arguing and screaming, they've been in their rooms and basements connecting themselves in a different world. That's what we're seeing. Anyway.
And they're trying to control it. The UK is way more controlled on what you get access to. You got to have a digital ID to be able to post, to be able to participate, to be able
that's
to.
Coming.
I mean, here it comes.
Yeah,
because if you're not in control, you're out of control.
And Netanyahu's already. And what do you say? We got to buy TikTok, which they do, and now they want to buy Twitter. Already they're not even hiding it. Well, look, I have to, before I go, I just have a few quick things when you went brought back to politics. I'll end on a quick political note proving how Trump has been backstabbed already.
And starting to clock on quick. The definition of quick is. All right, go.
Yeah, our chess clock's been pretty good the last few weeks, actually. But so go just quick with movies, because you're asking about movies. We got off topic. One is, what other good movies this year? Dune Part 3. The Dune movies have been beautiful, epic, that you just don't see movies like that anymore. Dune Part 2 was even better than the first one.
Yeah,
If you
no,
didn't get
I
to
like
see it-
the new Doom movies. They did pretty good.
Yeah,
I
and
like
the
the first
third
one, but
well, the first two were based off of the first book. So they took 2 long movies to cover the first book, but no one's ever seen a movie of the second book, and that's what Dune Part 3 is. It's actually an
I
amalgam.
didn't even know until James told me that there was more than one book. I read.
Oh my God! There's like
I read
25
the book
books.
after I saw the movie.
Yeah, there's
I saw the movie and I go, "Oh, this is cool." I read the book. I didn't even know there were more.
Oh yeah. The first Dune book, which was 2 movies, is like watching Phantom Menace. I mean, not to compare it to Phantom Menace in quality, but it's just it's a setup for what's coming. It's a whole bunch of stuff. But Denis Villeneuve, I cannot pronounce his French Canadian name, but he is a visual storyteller like Ridley Scott. He does beautiful movies. In fact, he's the one that did the Blade Runner 2049 that we saw, and he's done some just visual spectacle. He's like the Ridley Scott of our time, including my favorite alien movie called Arrival, which I know you and I had a split opinion on that. But he did Dune. He's doing Dune Part 3. Then he's giving up the Dune franchise and he's turning it over to another hand-picked director who's going to continue this as a series. And guess what? So that movie comes out this year. Definitely check that out on IMAX or big screen Cine Capri in your area. That's worth getting out and paying $20 for, in my opinion. But then we have James Bond. James Bond, spoilers, but the last James Bond, they kill him off, which is another, SJW thing. Well, we have to get rid of another strong man, so they kill him off at the end of the last movie, which has been out for a couple of years. But so it's done, and then the Broccoli family, the Italian family, the Broccolis, who made all of the James Bond movies as basically family movies. That's like independent family movies. That's why James Bond's been very unique, but. They sold the rights to James Bond to Jeff Bezos. So Jeff Bezos owns James Bond, and then there was a part of the contract was that Jeff Bezos could make the movies, but the Broccoli family still had final cut basically over the script, that they could still decide to make sure that James Bond did not go woke. So that was the deal, but they did sell, most of the rights over to Bezos. Well,
it's after they bought MGM Studios. That's how they got control of the franchise.
Well, it was a direct. I mean, there was a direct contract with them about how much control, because this was James Bond was a special property. Well, anyway, a few months ago or 6 months ago, something like that. I forget how long now. Is that the Broccolis, for whatever reason, decided. You know what? We don't want to have to go do this anymore. Broccoli. Well, so they wound up selling the rest of their rights to James Bond to Jeff Bezos. So that last control over the script, I don't know what happened behind the scenes. They just said, you know what? You can have the whole thing. They did a George Lucas. They figured, you know what? If you're going to divorce, you just got to part company completely and not hang on. So they gave the whole thing to Bezos. Now he's in control. The problem is we saw what he did to the Lord of the Rings series. He bastardized that one, and everyone hates it, and he wokeified it. And now you have Jeff Bezos with James Bond. So is James Bond going to be, a handicapped, Eskimo lady? With whatever, with color blindness? Is that what they're going to do? We're going to go back to that? Or are we going to stick to the model and get a classic James Bond who's badass with a little wink in his eye and likes to be with the ladies and all of that? I mean, are we going to get that, or which one are we going to get? And so now there's a James Bond Civil War, kind of like Turning Point USA right now. It's happening with James Bond about where to go. And there's like a food fight over it. Well, but here's the kicker, is they already have a director assigned. And the director assigned is the same director, Denis Villeneuve, who did Dune. So he's leaving Dune to do James Bond. So it should be interesting to see what comes out of that.
Well, they better hurry up because they only got 10 years left on the copyright. Because it's 70 years from when the author dies, and Ian Fleming died in 1964. So, they got I think about a decade before they can, claim it as theirs, and then there'll be James Bond regurgitation of whatever from everywhere of something, So it's we'll see. They got to do it now, and they spend $1.5 billion on MGM, whatever, and it's not Bezos, it's Amazon, but same thing.
Yeah.
But so here you got James Bond, and what are they going to do right before the copyright runs out? Are they going to screw it up? Is it going to be woke? Is it going to be? Because Daniel Craig kind of went back more Sean Connery. I like Sean Connery, James Bond. The other ones have been pretty cool. There was not any one of them I didn't like.
The best was George Lazenby. He was the best Bond.
The one that did Her Majesty's Secret Service.
That was like the best movie too. It was great, classic.
Yeah, it was all right.
It's overlooked.
Well, he only did the one. It had Telly Savalas was the bad guy and stuff.
Yeah.
But see, I remember, ha ha ha. But there was Sean Connery did one before that, then him, and then Sean Connery back again or something. There was I can't remember, but you had was it Timothy Dalton, Pierce Brosnan,
Daniel Craig,
Roger Moore was not my favorite. I liked him as the Saint and all that kind of stuff. It was too lighthearted, it was too campy. I didn't really like that.
Well, he was the one I grew up with though. So he was my original favorite because I was young and he was campy and fun.
But I as I got older, I learned. But I thought Daniel Craig played a fantastic Bond. He was just the right. Sociopathic enough with a little bit of conscience, but not a whole lot. You got to be a secret agent, man. And I really liked him. For them to top him would be very cool. They got to come up with something but it all goes back to this woke thing. It goes back to the manly man thing. It's going to be, are they going to? I mean, I don't need a Hooters commercial through the whole thing, but I like it to be, true to secret agent, manly man got to go whip ass. Something, and it's not. And then you get into Mission Impossible stuff, and it's a Mission Impossible movie because Tom Cruise is running half a mile. I mean, you got to have him. If he ain't running, sprinting at top speed for 5 minutes, it's not a Tom Cruise movie. So he's got to show off running all the time. So this is. It's going to be a time in history, what's going on now, that a lot of times in history are portrayed by the movies. It may be delayed a year or 2 or 3 or precede or whatever, but they're certainly within a decade, of representing what America is about. And that's how we've been exporting our culture around the world. I remember South Korea had a big project. They were taking extra USBs donated, and we did shows on it. And where Etienne de la Boutier Squared, did his books, and a lot of stuff that he did was inspired by this because he came on after I'd done a show with these guys. He's like, wow, that's a good idea. And he really ran with it. And what it was is they put all this information, kind of like we do our Ron Paul DVDs, but it was on USB memory sticks because that's the only thing that they could, sneak into North Korea, and they'd plug into the little, you're allowed to watch, state approved, whatever the hell, but they ran USBs, memory sticks. So they put all these different Hollywood movies that would depict, America and South Korea in certain lights, and it would be dubbed in Korean. So they'd have all these Hollywood movies, and they thought that was like the philosophy of liberty. It would be, an entertaining movie thing that would infect the young minds in North Korea. And it did. And when they found people doing this, and you're executed kind of thing. So Hollywood was a big influence on entire generations, which is why the Red Scare and the McCarthy era and the 50s and the Soviet Union, and they're invading, and we get the KGB defector guys, Yuri, what's his name, comes in and goes, I'll tell you what we're doing it right before your eyes, and telling you we're not doing it while they're doing it. And so we see it on display now. Then you got guys like Mondani, when I say, bad guys doing bad stuff, and they know it's bad. I mean, that's like a definition of evil. So the Student for Liberty guy, Trevor, says, well, do you think Mondani, really knows, he thinks he's doing the right thing? And I go, well, what happens 2-3 years from now, and you see the result of his policies? What do you think's going to happen with socialist policies? Well, it's going to, detriment to this. This is going to crash. That's not going to be good. I go, do you think he'll know then? Is he totally freaking an idiot? Or he's going to see it, and he sees what he's doing is bad. You know, the anti-capitalist, pro-socialist, collectivist, whatever. Is he going to double down? Is he going to keep doing it? At what point does it become evil? Well, these kinds of philosophies are emphasized and promoted as good and everything. Where? Online, in books, in the movies. You walk around with your Mao Little Red Book in your hip pocket if you're in college in the 60s and 70s. This is how it's done. It's general public opinion. And Hollywood has been doing it and don't care if they lose money. When Disney shareholders come in and go, what the hell are you doing? Communizing America and losing money doing it because we don't care, you know? So I'm going, wow, it becomes so obvious. So I'm interested in this from a macro level, a much wider kind of, you know, what works. Well, freedom works. It always does. So what happens?
So
you got to use force and con you into doing it.
So one of the things I mean, I agree with what you're saying, but I also look at it that when they're burning down their properties, when they're spending 140 million on a movie and then making 30, you know, they can only do that for so long. And we've tracked this on the show for years. Like, do they, you know, how come no one's fired? You would think automatically your heads would roll and the same people are there. And then as you've always pointed out, well, they don't care. They're okay losing the money. Okay. They can only do that for so long, however, because it's the equivalent of Donald Trump losing political capital. In this case, you know, you're literally losing capital, and you can only do that for so long. Then you start wondering, okay, well, why is that possible? How can that capital continue to go down? And your shareholders, how come they're not revolting? And then you find out, and this is a little tangential, but about BlackRock, you find out that, you know, these companies, when you have mutual funds and all, or kind of these whatever funds that people invest in, you know, you get access to the funds, but some of the quid pro quo is that you give up your voting rights. And so therefore, your voting rights, your votes are all controlled by like one person at whoever's running BlackRock. And so therefore, all the people could be saying, Bob Iger has to go, enough with woke Snow White, and yet you have no vote. And because I used to keep thinking, well, how come people aren't overthrowing the guy? It's because everyone could be packed in the audience against Bob Iger, but the guy, you know, running BlackRock has all of the votes. So all of this is controlled demolition, but how far can it go? And I think that they thought, like Trump, that he could stick to the line. He'll lose a little bit of capital, but it won't hemorrhage completely. Eventually, you'll break the back of the other side, and then you'll win. You know, it's kind of like a war of attrition. The only thing is, one person is going to actually lose that, and what both Trump and what Hollywood, we're all going to lose, yeah. But the people are still going to win in a way. Is that we're just going to go off and watch something else, and eventually they thought that there wasn't going to be anywhere else to go. Like with Trump, well, if you're not MAGA with me, what are you going to vote for the Democrats and go on The View? Well, he's not counting on, like no one else, the young people and how people are just giving up MAGA. They have their own. Trump was not MAGA, right? Trump was, like we've always said, he's a symptom of the problem, and MAGA was beyond Trump. Now, if Trump finally got hubris and thought it was all about him, well, he's getting a nice steep lesson. And Hollywood's thinking that it was all about their movies. And like, well, if we make the movies, we make the slop, and you piggies are going to come watch whatever we make. And if you old people don't like a new woman taking over Luke Skywalker's position or whatever, then that's up to you. But the young people are all going to love it. And everyone tuned out. And I think they thought it was a Trump thing. When Trump was out of office, it would all go away. Remember, the female Ghostbusters was right when Trump was running the first time. So they really, really thought the Hollywood machine looked at the people fighting their movies as Trump people. I know it sounds strange. That's why we brought up on the show, because they're paralleled. So when they kept thinking Trump was going down, when Trump was down, then the American people would be back into their mitt. And I think that's what they honestly thought that. And every time Trump was, you know, shot at literally or whatever, he'd sit right back up like Jason from the movies. And then he's like, oh my God, he's back again. I mean, it really broke the Democrats when he won in 2024, because they just couldn't fathom that after everything they threw at him, how did they thought the American people were fooled the first time because they're dimwits. But after all the stuff over 8 years, there's no way they would have voted him back, and he got in even stronger. So credit to many moderate Democrats who did kind of put down the pitchforks a bit and said, all right, I resign. Some of them went to other countries like Ellen DeGeneres. But it's like, they at least said, all right, we finally get it. We completely disagree with half of America, but at least we finally get that this is a real sentiment. This isn't just a few old people on Fox News who somehow are trolling YouTube videos or Rotten Tomatoes and a bunch of bots. They convinced themselves that those review bombs were not legitimate people. Like, they honestly thought that. So anyway, to finish up the thing of movies, I wanted to the last little point. I think you're going to like this, to what you were talking about, is that all of the movie production companies, MGM, all of them, Disney, they've all announced just recently that they're going to be strongly reducing the productions, the movies, because they're all losing money and they don't know what works. Everything, no matter what it is, it's bombing, right? So finally, they're getting broken themselves, survive to 25. So they're all reducing almost half how many movies they'll be making, except one production company, Paramount. Paramount, which is just going through a buyout anyway, Paramount now is claiming they're going to double the number of movies. So instead of making like 24 movies and they're backing down to 15, Paramount's going up to 40 or 50 movies. And everyone's looking like, what are you smoking? What do you mean you're going up 50 movies? And Paramount has a different strategy. What they are going to do, and Ernie, you're going to love this, is they've decided to give up on all their creative people in office. These idiots. And again, a lot of these are woke warriors that they're hiring. I'm not trying to be racial over it, but, they put like a 25-year-old African-American woman right out of college to write the Star Wars scripts for those Star Wars movies. I mean, it's like having Hulk Hogan write the Barbie movie or something. It's like, what are you doing? Like, this is not who you get to write for that market. But that's what they did, and they kept thinking that the new woke warriors could write to the new audience that they thought was all woke and would overthrow us. Instead, you've got the gripers now, right? But anyway, they realized that I guess they can't fire these people and put in conservatives or regular MAGA people who probably could write better movies and speak to the audience. That's what they should do. They also have the union problems, and then they're going to be, Me Too'd, and there's so much stuff still holding up Hollywood.
They got bigger problems than that.
No. What I mean is that like the Bob Igers, there's a lot of thinking, why does Bob Iger not fire these people like Kathleen Kennedy, who's ruined the entire Star Wars franchise? It's because he can't. It's almost like the Epstein files. Like, there's still so much baggage of Me Too stuff and maybe Epstein and who the hell, Weinstein, whatever. So much stuff that again, why does not Bob Iger fire all these people who've destroyed Pixar and Raiders and ILM? I mean, it's all of this. So why doesn't he? Now, I don't want to get into that right now. We've covered it. It's a morass. So how can you get rid of these people and then not get Me Too'd and get all the damage? Well, they decided, Paramount, they're going to let these people go, not because they're hiring MAGA. Oh, no. We're hiring HAL 9000. So they've decided to go all AI. And what I mean is not make the movies with AI, which all the companies are doing that anyway, but they're deciding, this is kind of smart. They're doing what I always wonder why they don't do already is, remember we talked about how there's movies that are making money now, like K-pop Demon Hunters, that none of you probably have heard of unless you have kids. And that movie made tons of money, and Hollywood's going, where the hell did that movie come from? Or another movie, it's an anime movie, it's made tons of money. It's called Chainsaw Man. It's like this anime movie it's a series that's in Japan that all the kids now in America, all the young people are watching. It's this crazy looking mutant thing, man, that has a chainsaw for a head. And it's super violent. He just goes and chops everyone's heads off and blood spurting and everything and whatever. I've never seen it. I've just seen a clip of it. But it's a huge hit amongst young people that parents and everyone have never even heard of. So a small little company made a movie based off of it, and it's made tons of money back. And so we're seeing niche movies that have niche built-in audiences that are completely off the grid of the prior communal cultural zeitgeist that this country has had. We're never going to have another Michael Jackson album where everyone listens to the top 10 songs anymore. Same thing with movies. The water cooler talk. You know, did you see Dallas last night? Who shot JR? Those days are beyond done. We're all in our own little bubbles. And so this Paramount guy has finally figured that part out. He's going, you know what? We can't keep up with all of the different shows and trends and TikToks. So we're going to create this huge AI model, and it's going to scour the internet and social media and find for us what is popular now. Because hiring someone who's 40 years old to try to find some property that's already, you know, locked up and I don't know, and rights issues and this and that. Let's skip all of this. Just find the next Chainsaw Man, whatever's popular right now. We're too old to know what it is. Tell us where the money is and the activity in social media. We'll make a movie for you. And that's why they decided to double the production output using that as a model lead for content. It's like about time, although, you know, I'm sure a lot of people are losing their jobs, but it shows the dissolution of our culture. Anyway, that's pretty much it. I have one last coda. That's enough with movies. But Ernie was talking earlier about politics again, about, you know, Trump and losing all this stuff and losing. So remember, I was commenting that Trump betrayed his base in favor of the establishment. And I said, how's he going to like it? Because when he's finally in trouble, the establishment that he now took the knee to, for whatever reason, they will betray him again, which they always will. And the only people that had his back and would crawl through mud for him, maybe not Ernie, I probably would have, is to support that movement up until, you know, Epstein who? Was his base. Well, the proof already, before our show ended, as you were talking earlier, I got a text, came up from the news, and here's the news. Breaking news at the end of the show, the Trump Report, is that Donald Trump and Vice President Vance have not been invited to Dick Cheney's funeral.
Shit.
So, like, as inconsequential you might think it is, but it's a huge statement. I mean, they are the manufacturers of the deep state and the never-ending wars.
Yeah, I'd pay
and
him
Donald Trump has gotten. He's like Dick Cheney 2.0 as far as there's not a war he's not joining, along with Nikki Haley probably is in his back pocket, or he's in her back pocket. Whatever's going on, you would think Bush and Cheney would be like, "Welcome to the club, Trump." And so not only is Trump getting turned on by his own base, the establishment neocons won't even invite him as president and VP to the funeral. It already starts.
You know, one thing that has, when you said JD and Trump, it made me think. I watched the most recent episode of South Park. Have you seen any of the South Parks?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
I know.
Now it's finally
brutal.
Trump and JD Vance are making out in bed and sleep with each other and kind of, you know, it's a thing, and it's just hilarious, and it's so irreverent. It's so, and I'm the one thing that I really am kind of amazed at, but it's the best thing, is Trump has not mentioned anything about South Park. And he better not. He just shut up and take it, because he says a freaking word, it's going to get ugly. And
well, you're wrong, Ernie. You're wrong. Trump's not taking it. The devil's taking it. If you get my drift.
Yeah, for their butt baby. That's got to be born one of these days. It's so ridiculous, but it's so funny and irreverent as hell. Donna's like, "Why do you like this?" I go, "Are you kidding me? This is making fun of the whole freaking thing." And that was one thing. They had a story, New York Times. They were talking to Trey Parker and Matt Stone, the creators, and they're in their 28th year or some shit. I mean, holy crap, they're old men now. And they go, well, it was kind of like, this is where it's verboten. You're not allowed to do this. Don't go there. So we go there. I mean, that kind of thing. So they're just whatever. But thinking it's time. I'm feeling the time. There's a malaise that you get. Does anybody really understand? Are they starting to feel the real threat to this country and individuals? Do they understand just how much potential America, just with our heritage and understanding words and the fact that we have a remnant of a culture of individual liberty and proper rule of government and all of the writings, and even in different languages. You know, a lot of these things were Austrian economics, Austrians, French, Bastiat, laissez-faire, this is all French concepts. John Locke is from Great Britain. I mean, it's just, they just chose the best. This democracy, republic thing, Rome, Greek, whatever. There was an attempt to try and have a country that would protect individuals' rights so they could flourish, and it created the most powerful nation state, which was its own problem. When you create a big power, a wealthy people, it becomes a target. Well, that's what happened. And we didn't really recognize and understand what was going on. And now with the internet, we might get to a level of enlightenment. We might understand that, yeah, you can go be communist over there, and we're not over here. So this is, I see the future of abundance, sustainable abundance. Elon's going on about in his last shareholder thing. I go, it's a good phrase, sustainable abundance. Well, of course, he's going to want to do it with AI and freaking robots, but that's what's going to happen in the entertainment industry. I could see it coming, even years before Iron Sky, when they did that. It was a great movie, and it was totally outside the studio system, done by, guys with computers in Europe somewhere, or Eastern Bloc of whatever we made it, okay? And I'm going, damn, that's the death knell for these guys. Well, before that, it was Rodriguez. You had Quentin Tarantino, and then this guy, Rodriguez, he was another director. And
Robert Rodriguez, yeah.
Robert Rodriguez. And they did things like, what was the one with Kurt Russell that, it was like a drive-in series of a bunch of short movies that were, what was it called?
Grindhouse,
right. That was amazing. Well, what happened is Rodriguez, when there was another movie he did with Antonio Banderas and Selma Hayek, and I can't remember what it was called, but I come to find out, like, that movie, that was cool. Well, what happened is he used a Macintosh computer. He just took all of this stuff and he put in, the raw shooting material, and he just went and camped out in his mother-in-law house in his backyard of whatever and put this movie together. And I'm going, oh, the studios are so done to have one guy, a director, doing his own editing, doing primary, photography, getting the actors, doing whatever. And now there was a movie with, what was his name? Rob Schreiner. It was the guy that played the sheriff in Jaws, okay? He played the lead character, I think, in a movie called Looker. And this was back in the 70s, 80s. What it was is they digitized the actors and actresses, and then they were wind up being killed. And the reason is because they had a digital representation of them. They didn't need them anymore. And they didn't want to, they could make more money if they weren't around to pay their cut. So, they were just dying. And I'm going, wow. So we've gotten to that point. We are now, and that was what the big writer-actor strike most recent, a year or two ago, that was going on. What were they worried about? Being digitized. They're going, look, man, they're not going to need us. And I go, yeah, you're right. But who does that power go to? Some 13-year-old kid that's got a vision of, doing something. That was, I think it was a movie called 8mm, and then there was, I think there was one that was about child pornography or something, but there was another one, 8mm, something like that. It was about the youth of Steven Spielberg. That he had one of these little cameras, and he was going around cutting film and doing film and, processing film, and they're making these people that want to be artists want to make movies. Well, now You can make a movie with scripts. You know what prop to put in the computer. They just make it. I've seen them. This is a powerful tool that is going to be used by people like us. But what are the bad guys going to do with it? They'll do whatever. They'll be lying, cheating, stealing, but that's not what's going to inspire people. What inspires people is concepts, freedom, opportunities, options, things that, how to be a good neighbor, productive, make food, raise children. I mean, it's going to be, I see abundance in the future, and they, them, those can't see it. And it has now been so much of an example that now we're witnessing Trump can't see it. Why? Because The Apprentice. Because of, Cohn telling them, never admit, that you lost, you're always winning, you're never wrong, and don't apologize. I mean, this is that. So he has programmed himself to either not react as if he sees it, or he physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually can't see it. But who does? Barron. I'm thinking that
Exactly.
It's going to be Generation Next.
No, you hit it out of the park. I was telling Savarda, I said, there's no one who can get to Trump. He's surrounded by neocons, whatever. Speaking of the Roy Cohn, and we'll get to the kid in a second, but Roy Cohn, when you watch the movie, there's a hopefully you'll watch it, and we'll have a lot to talk about next week. But the one question I'm going to plant a seed for you when you watch it and then apply till today. Obviously, it's a movie made by Hollywood. Let's say you're not the biggest fans of Trump. I do give them credit. They did a fair job. It wasn't too bad. It was fairly fair. But when you watch it, Roy Cohn has, in my opinion, that sociopath stare. I'm not saying he's a sociopath. I wouldn't bet my green motorcycle.
What happens if my
wait, there you go. So I wouldn't, but that would mean, I don't believe Donald Trump's a sociopath. I really don't. It's not just because I like the guy or voted for him, whatever. But and we've talked about sociopaths for a long time, and I know, Ernie, you don't think so either. Not that he's perfect. He's got a lot of problems, but I don't think he is. Roy Cohn, I think he was. So Roy Cohn, when he did those 3 rules, that was indigenous to him. That was him completely. The whole point of the movie, The Apprentice, is the apprentice was learning from Roy Cohn. So I could see another sociopath taking over those rules, but just like the rule of 2 for the Dark Lords of the Sith, why is there only a Dark Lord in The Apprentice? It's because you can never have 2 Dark Lords because they're going to kill each other. It's like having 2 tigers or lions in the same cage. There's only one alpha. That's the reason there's only 2, a master and the apprentice. But in this case, the question is Donald Trump a sociopath? I don't think he is. If he was, I don't think 2 sociopaths can work together as closely as they did. So my feeling is that he was not a sociopath, just like the Clintons. Again, I'm not their doctor. I don't know for sure, but let's just say there's overtones and speculation out there that some people say that Hillary Clinton has antisocial. She has a lot of the traits. Bill Clinton, despite all of his problems, I'm no Clinton fan. Personally, I don't think he's antisocial because, again, you can't really have 2 antisocial people be together. They can't be married. It's kind of like you need a dominant and a recessive, and Hillary would be the dominant one there. I don't think anyone's doubting that one. But so if Trump is not the sociopath, then that means he learned
plays one on TV though.
Then that means he learned the rules from Roy Cohn, but it's not indigenous to him. I'm not saying he hasn't, he's not in the nice, comfortable shoe of Roy Cohn now, and he's been so successful, you could just say he is kind of a Roy Cohn kind of character. But I kind of wonder how much is it really in him, in his gut, as much as Roy Cohn, versus he just learned to adapt it and use it in his personal lifestyle, which is kind of what the movie sort of suggests, that, Trump was not born like that. It's just he saw the world that he was ambitious to get into, and what worked was the Roy Cohn method. It's like he adopted it. So anyway, with that said, he's now surrounded. He's got his own ego, the Roy Cohn method, and it's worked so far. I could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and I won't lose a vote. I mean, it's gotten to his head of hubris. So who can even talk to him? He feels betrayed by Tucker and MGT. Everything is falling apart around him. Does he know it? Does he know it or not? Or is he so insulated by his people? They're saying, "Oh no, we're still in control," and he's being gaslit by his own people. And Trump's just not smart enough to know. Also, I think the deep state, the CIA people, and all. They have psychiatry experts in manipulation. And as smart as Trump is, negotiation and playing the world and marketing and all of that, there's no way he's going to outflank some genius, like super genius CIA psych major that's job is to manipulate. And whether it's honeypots or other things, I'm sure they have Trump's number down psychologically and have used his lack of intelligence on that level against him to manipulate. And I'm sure they've done that in all sorts of ways. It doesn't have to be a honeypot situation, just play to his ego, all sorts of ways of manipulating him. So with all of that said, is there anyone who can say, Donald, you're like going down on the Titanic, can't you see it? And that would be his children. Because between John Trump Jr., even his ex-girlfriend, what's her name, with the legs and the boobs, what's her name? She's she's the diplomat for Greece now. Trump sent her away. Kimberly Guilfoyle.
Guilfoyle.
Yeah. I mean, she was part of that. I mean, she's kind of part of that true MAGA base, and she's kind of on the outskirts. She has access to Trump Jr. I mean, and of course, and you said the key, and of course, Eric Trump, sitting there speaking at Bitcoin events, and they're all out there. They're all watching Tim Pool. A lot of them been on Tim Pool's show. Not to make this about Tim Pool. I just mean that's the new
South Park covers all this stuff too.
Exactly. But that's the new media where the younger Trumps are all engaged in, except for the ultimate young Trump. To your credit, it's Barron. Barron is, I mean, he's really he's the Nick Fuentes model. And I'd bet my dollar that Keith gave me that he watches Nick Fuentes. There's no way that Barron Trump is not watching Nick. I guarantee, whether he agrees with them or not, but I think he does. And I can't imagine his own children, Trump not listening to his kids, saying, "Dad, you're blowing our entire future, the whole Trump name." I mean, remember, I'll end on this because I have to go, and I appreciate we had a good show here, but is that you agreed with me years ago when Trump came in. You said got it. When Ernie actually agreed with me one or two times. I got $1 for each time, and that was when when Ernie agreed that Trump is a brand and that what he's selling is a brand, and there's a lot behind that, and he was losing his brand capital when he ran. I mean, he had to sell companies. The stock was going down. People were quitting his companies and attacking them. And Ivanka, she was whichever one. She was, she was trying to take over some of these companies, and she got kind of rammed out of there. So he's all about a brand, and so he wants to protect that brand. And he's done it by becoming president, you would think, and he built this coalition, and the whole thing's going, not just his business brand empire, but his political brand. And I wonder if he's just figuring that out now. Maybe he gave up the business brand for the political brand and for history. Remember, I predicted he was going to want to get the Nobel Peace Prize, that he was going to, and when he got in, everyone started talking about that. He wanted a Nobel Peace Prize. Trust me, I didn't hear that from any other media people. I could just tell that that's what he was going to do and probably want to do, assuming he wanted to end the wars. And that was his way to cement that I really am a good leader. And he did the complete opposite. He'll never get the Nobel Peace Prize at this point, and he's lost everything in his political capital. So his brand is toast. And I never thought, well, I don't say never, but I didn't really think I'd see that day. And if his kids, if you're going to ruin the brand to your own children, forget the money, but that name goes down like Nixon. Imagine your last name is Nixon, and you got to carry that around. Or some of the two people I have a lot of sympathy for in life, I just always have, are O.J. Simpson's children. I mean, they lost their mother. They were in the limelight. Their father has been ostracized and looked at as, I mean, just imagine being OJ's kids. I'm not saying that Trump's, OJ, but you make your own link. But I think that is what the children are going to start to feel as this thing gets muddier and muddier, and we cover it every week on Trump Report, Tyranny Report. Those children are going to be feeling it, and Kai Trump, the granddaughter that is looking like she's going to be a young influencer and maybe in politics, like the whole future was set for that family, and it's all going to be tarnished. So I'll be curious to see if, like you said, if Barron or anyone can have his ear, but it's probably too late at this point to do anything. Because if he backtracks now, everything he does now is out of weakness. That's the point. Trump's all about strength. Everything now is going to be reactive.
Well, he's up against what he can't control. I'll give you an example. I was doing this with the previous guest. Can you see the screen? Are you got where you on your phone?
I can see it. I can see it.
Okay, this is, it's called CIA Fact Book. If you go CIA Fact Book, America or United Kingdom or Zimbabwe or whatever, it has all these stats on these countries. And this is the one that I really, saw that was interesting. You go to the United States and you'll see the median age for a lot of Western countries is 39 years old. Okay, so it's about 40 years for female, 37.8 for male. So it's about 39 years old is the median. Half of the population is over 39, half is below. When you look at things like sex ratio, it's usually about half and half, unless it's after some world war and all the men are dead, But you go to the fertility rate, it's 1.84. That's up, it used to be like 1.67 or something like that. But 1.84, and you need 2.1 to maintain a population. So, yeah, we're kind of losing it here. Now, Uganda, the gentleman that I had on last night, it was the median age is 16. I haven't seen it that low since we did Egypt. Egypt was like 22, 23 or something like that. Uganda has half of the people of the entire country is under 16. Now the birth rate, while ours is 1 point whatever, the birth rate there is 5.1. I'm going, holy crap.
Yep.
So these are the kinds of things that you can look at. It's demographics. What is the population? How many resources do they have? What's their income? What's their income per year per person? What's their GDP? What? These kinds of things are inevitable details that you have to deal with. The size of Uganda has like the population 49-something million. I don't know, it's about like California, but it's about the size of Oregon. Well, this is, when I look at and I talk to these kids from around the world, what are they dealing with? What are they up against? What is some of the stats? Well, this dying off of generation whatever, the boomers, and then X and our age and everything, what do we got coming up? How many? Is it less and more? Is it, they're just deprived? They're insisting. Now, there's always a generation next. What do they want? How many of them are there? What is their mindset? What are they promised? What did they get? We had a T-shirt design that says, government doesn't work, I want my money back. And it was a graph that started with the founding of the country. It's like 1776, and it had, a chart of individual liberty. And it kind of dropped down at the Civil War, and it go up, and it drops down, the Federal Reserve Act, income tax, and up and down, whatever. We kind of charted, a lot of how freedom was being paid attention to. And then the perception, the actual individual rights. And there was a graph, it kind of separated to where what the promise was and what the actual was. When you do that, you get that difference between what was promised and what is actual. That is what we called the revolution gap. And that was what the T-shirt icon was about. And that chart, the point that I was trying to relay to people is I'm going, at some point, you're going to have this enormous gap of what you were promised and what you actually have. That's what's happening right now with young men. There's a revolution gap. And they will not, I wouldn't. You know, I went through this. I was going at the beginning of affirmative action. It was the late 70s, early 80s. I'm going to college. They're teaching you Ebonics, that, you know, individual rights don't matter. It's the most for the most people, and we get to determine what that is, and then we go downhill. So now, and then Don and I get married. Interest rates went to the moon. You had to do a self-financing, pay down payment to assume an FHA loan, and then you had to do a second to the seller so that they could come out ahead and that was at 8%. I remember, there was no home that we could buy at the time in the late 80s that you couldn't get a loan for less than 7-8%. I'm going, wow, how is this even It's not. And we're going through that again. Something has to break, because it always does. Now they've overbuilt, and housing rates are starting to plummet. Just supply demand stuff and the capability of even buying it. So who's going to get nailed? The ones that bought houses in the last few years. So it's inevitable, but I'm insulated from a lot of it. I spent most of yesterday going around on my tractor using the moist ground to be able to level everything out and find the low spots of the drainage of it's rocking and rolling and whatnot. And I'm ready to go out and finish my solar today. And I go, woohoo, man, I win. But what is everybody else doing? They're worried about being able to afford food. They're doing the buy now, pay later on groceries. They racked up their credit cards. They are having, a big giant debt coming out of college right away that they're never going to be able to pay off on their barista salary. What is going to happen? I don't know, but it's going to happen. Just saying. Well, that's enough for Trump Report today. There's a lot of things that we're going to be taking advantage of and having fun with, but we'll keep you guys apprised and share with you. But it's a timing thing, and hopefully you listen to us over the year. You buy silver. If you bought silver with extra money, silver, I think I get a little silver, and I'm not going to spend and do and buy and get and cash out my way and get silver. You'd be fine, which is what we're counting on. A little bit of crypto here, got some silver there, do that, and not in paper. I know Frank did the same thing. Ever since I've known Frank, he's been a precious metals guy, a little bit crypto guy, a little something, and he's getting his power thing taken care of. He's got his solar, his battery set up. He's got, so we're living what we're preaching, and I think we're going to be better off. I hope my family is all good. My in-laws are coming to visit for Christmas. They're starting to come around, and they were New York City major, deep down the hole. They're starting to, damn, maybe this Mondami thing is not what we want. I don't know. So it's changing. America is going to change, and Trump is going to be left behind because he didn't understand people were serious about it. And going after Massey and Green was the biggest mistake that I think manifests what the kind of person and what he was emphasizing. So I don't see this administration coming back from this. So we'll see.
Yeah. So just my last point. I agree with everything you're saying, and I would predict, and I'm curious if you're going to do an over/under bet on it, that, and I don't say this gleefully or for clickbait type prediction, but I think something bad's going to happen. And well, that's kind of a loaded comment, but I mean,
you mean what? Did I lose Frank? Yes, I did. Right when he was going to I know he's desperately wants to. He's going to come back. But the show's going to be over. So that was enough. We could see. Yeah, there is something that's coming. I don't know what. I know it's going to be the removal of options. Freedom is about options. You have the option to this, that, whatever, to improve your circumstances, your happenstance, your pursuit of happiness. That's going to be taken away. Either economically, war, they, them, those are going to, you're not allowed. We passed a law. We taxed a thing. We eminent domain to whatever, something. Fortunately, I think we're insulated, and we got far enough at the end of the trail. I go any further west, I start getting into other cities. So it's because I'm very serious about this. I just want to be left alone, and they can't, because having people out there being an inspiration is not part of their program. They need examples of you're not allowed. So that's why when I get asked to like do some big activism, run for office, I'm like, no. When you're hanging on by your fingernails, you don't go waving your arms around. And I think everybody's going to be hanging on by their fingernails. But that doesn't mean I can't do some activist thing that doesn't center around me or Freedom's Phoenix or whatever. It's, decades old philosophy of liberty thing that we can promote in other people, and I can help facilitate that. That's something I'm willing to do because I can. Peace.